This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with James O'Brien.
You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC. Well, look, there's 2, 3, 4 things can be true at the same time. It is obviously the case that the reporting of the current or recent early releases of prisoners is considerably more comprehensive than coverage of similar cases under previous governments. So much so that even I couldn't believe my own ears earlier when I heard somebody claiming that it couldn't possibly have happened under previous governments because we would have noticed the headlines. Well, some of us did. William Fernandez was awaiting trial for sexual assault in March 2021 when he was released by error from Wormwood Scrubs. He went on to rape a 16-year-old girl and sexually assault a young woman. In December 2019, the Prisons and Probation Service apologised unreservedly after a serial rapist called Joseph McCann, I brought this story to your attention yesterday, but some people don't notice these headlines, was freed to commit a series of sex attacks on women and children. And in July 2017, an inmate who was released from prison just months into a 9-year sentence due to a, quote, clerical error, was arrested after weeks on the run. In fact, I think 115 prisoners were released in error in the year to March 2024. So that's all true. And I don't think I need to point out to you why the change of government affects a change in coverage of this kind of crime. Thank God none of the men who are currently on the loose, undeservedly and accidentally, are anything like as big a threat, or are not believed to pose anything like as big a threat as these two characters who were released under the Tories. I can't even remember whether Robert Jenrick was in post at the time, but if I'd had the pleasure of talking to him this morning, I probably would have pointed it out. But hey-ho, some people don't notice the headlines. So you don't need me to tell you how hypocritical and pathetic these double standards are. But you cannot let your scarf get tied so tightly round your neck that it cuts off the flow of blood to your brain, even if it sometimes feels as if everybody else has. Because even if you take that figure of 115 in the year to March 2024, you must acknowledge that it has gone up by 128%, so it has more than doubled in the subsequent year, in the year to March 2025. And listen, there is nothing conspiratorial about the fact that the way these stories are being handled has changed as a consequence of Hadush Kibatu being released early, given the attention that was paid to the crime that he committed in the first place that got him jailed, namely the sexual assault of a 14-year-old girl and a woman outside that repurposed hotel in Epping that was housing asylum seekers and prompted huge protests. 40%, of course, of the men who were arrested at those protests were found to have previously come to the authorities' attention for issues related to domestic abuse. So a lovely bunch of blokes, I think it's fair to say. So all of these things can be true at the same time. Some members of my so-called profession manage not to notice rapists being released by accident when the Tories are in power, but my goodness me, they're adamant that when Labour are in power and non-rapists get released, it's evidence that the world is going to hell in a handcart at 500 miles an hour. But David Lammy had a disastrous time in the House of Commons yesterday. Objectively, not quite as disastrous as James Cartledge, who completely managed to miss an open goal that he had built for himself before going into the chamber. You remember our little post-mortem with Natasha yesterday was sort of hinging on the question of whether or not he had something up his sleeve, and for reasons that I could not work out, he failed to remove said item from his sleeve and bashed David Lammy over the head with it. And it looks like that's exactly what happened. He managed to lose count. How many times have I said to you, it's not an opinion, it's counting? He managed to lose count of how many questions he'd asked, so couldn't hit David Lammy at the end of that exchange with the fact that he knew that a foreign prisoner had been released. Not, and I seem to be the only person who cares about this kind of technicality, not an asylum seeker as far as I can tell. So when he kept asking, has another asylum seeker been released? Has another asylum seeker been released? David Lammy, pedantically speaking, could have said no. But he chose not to reveal that another prisoner, and of course because one of the two prisoners found to have been released early is foreign, That is suddenly considerably more important than the 100 and whatever it was that got released last time the Tories were in power in the space of a single year. I don't know how many of the 262 released in error in the 12 months to March 2025 were foreign, but I know at the moment that I live in a country where their foreignness matters more than their crimes, because the foreigners who have been released early committed crimes nowhere near as heinous as those committed by Joseph McCann. 33 life sentences he's serving at the moment, but some people manage to miss those headlines. But I still just want to know how it happens. I still just want to know how it happens. There is absolutely no question that David Lammy had a nightmare in the House of Commons yesterday for two reasons. And you can't chalk these up to double standards. The single biggest problem he's got is the fact that he made great hay of announcing and introducing extra measures after the accidental release of Hadush Kabatu, who has now, I think, finally been deported. He spent 48 hours at large. And you'll remember the last time we spoke about this, in fact, the last time we spoke about him, the element of the story that we couldn't get our collective heads around was the fact that he kept asking them to let him back in. He reportedly, according to an eyewitness, was sort of wandering around in a bit of a stupor, telling people he thought he'd been released by mistake and he was supposed to be deported. By this stage in his life, understandably and thankfully, he wanted to be sent back to Ethiopia. But the disconnect, whatever you want to call it, the disconnect would, for me, be between the mood, is that the right word? The context, the environment at the prison gate, I don't know what it is, an office, a porter cabin, and everybody in it is witnessing this chap wandering around, giving a very, very distinct impression that he wasn't supposed to be released today, and nobody did anything about it. And then David Lammy introduces new measures or announces new measures that are designed to ensure that this kind of thing could never happen again. And it happens again, not once, but twice. So it works out over the course of the calendar year to March 2025 as about one a day in terms of two a day. That's not an opinion, that's counting. If you exclude Saturdays and Sundays and you work on the principle that this only happens on office days, Mondays to Fridays, about 2 prisoners are released by accident early every day in this country. And, you know, at varying degrees, it's been going on forever. And for things that are not conspiratorial but do make sense, it matters. It matters enormously. It matters. I've been flipping out. How can you not care? It doesn't matter whether you're a founding member of the Labour Party. If you're pretending not to care about this, you're an idiot. And, of course, all the people who do client journalism and daily shilling for the Tories who didn't care when it was happening under them are idiots as well. So don't become an idiot, because 2 wrongs don't make a right. This matters. You should care. And it's a disaster for whoever is in government. And just because other people don't care when their lot is in government, you cannot let yourself pretend you don't care or convince yourself not to care because your lot are in government now. The single simple question is, how the fudge does it happen? How the fudge does it happen? What would be the equivalent in your job? You know that line, it's become popular in recent years when you say to someone, you had one job. I don't know if you noticed, we missed the trail this morning. I recorded my little contribution to the final 15 minutes of Nick's programme. And quite rightly, the producer can turn to me and say, James, you've got one job before 10 o'clock. You've got one job, and that's to get your trail in on time. And you didn't. You failed. You didn't do it. In the great scheme of things, me filing my trail 30 seconds late is not quite on the same page as letting a prisoner out of prison before he's finished his sentence. But what would it be in your job? What would it be in your job, Keith? Pressing a button and taking Chris Moyles live from Radio X or something? Or Toby Tarrant at this time of day, of course. What would be the thing you do that would almost define the worst thing you could do at work? The single worst thing that you could do at work. And you know, proper tragedy aside, I don't want to think about bus drivers driving off cliffs or anything like that, but going the wrong way. If you're a bus driver, you just decided by accident, you misunderstood, or you went the wrong way round a roundabout and you ended up 5 miles away from where you were supposed to be with a bus full of furious passengers. You're a chef who accidentally used salt instead of sugar. I don't know. What's the biggest thing you could do wrong at work? In the sense that what defines your job? It defines your job. It's not just like a side order. It's not just something that you do in addition to lots of other things. You are a prison officer. Your job is to make sure people stay in prison. I know there's lots of other bits, don't at me, but you take my point. What would be the thing that constituted the single biggest thing that could go wrong, death and disaster aside, in terms of pure competence, not acts of God or things over which you have no control? What would be the single thing that could go wrong in your job, given what the key role of your job is? Yeah, well, it's happening twice a day in British prisons. And under the Tories, it was happening once a day. And it doesn't matter who's in charge. It matters why it's happening. And I still don't understand how or why. And I want you to tell me. And it went well last time. I've said to you many times, some subjects only need 4 decent callers. It's unlikely that I'm going to fill up the switchboard with people qualified to actually comment on what is going on in our prisons, because you would have had to be in one relatively recently, either as an officer or a prisoner or possibly a visitor. And that is automatically a very restricted pool of people from which I can draw. But I've developed enough confidence, cockiness over the years to decide some days that is the only way to go forward. What happened? How? Because if it's happening twice a day, this question becomes even more acute than it did when we asked specifically about Hadush Kabatu. Listen, if you mess up at work, and we've all messed up at work, and then they bring in measures to make sure that you don't mess up again, you have to be made of butter not to focus on those new measures and comprehensively commit to trying to observe them, because the alternative is to drop yet another clanger. And if you drop a clanger soon after dropping the last clanger, that's what's known in the trade as a double clanger. It's not known in the trade as a double clanger, but it is a clanger of inconceivable proportions compared to the original clanger. Sarah's an air traffic controller. That's a pretty good job, to have the worst imaginable thing go wrong when you're at work. But I did say, genuine disasters and apocalypses aside, you'd send a plane to the wrong airport, for example. Do you see what I mean when I'm talking about not death and disaster and destruction, the thing that just constitutes the mother of all mistakes at work? Imagine if an air traffic controller was sending an aeroplane to the wrong destination twice a day. How long would they stay? Imagine if the air traffic control service twice a day out of Heathrow, Gatwick, Luton and the rest of them were sending aeroplanes to the wrong destination twice a day. How long would the service survive? I have sympathy, unless you tell me that I shouldn't. I have sympathy for the men and women on the ground doing a job. I owe an apology, because I had this thing, I told you last time we talked about this. William's quite right, it would indeed be a doppelclanger, not a double clanger. Thank you very much. I have this little problem, because I've been doing this job so long. I have a tiny, tiny problem with repetition. So when we talked about the prison service under Chris Grayling's tutelage, we talked about the prison service, and I used to get quite long queues of retired prison officers describing how things used to be better in their day, and I owe them, almost all of them, an apology for being a tiny bit dismissive and ungrateful, because when you told me about what was likely to happen as a consequence of the changes brought in under, he's a lord now, would you believe? Of course you'd believe it, they all are. The worse they did in power, the more likely they are to now be sitting in the House of Lords. You queued up to tell me how disastrous some of these policies were, and I thought you were exaggerating. This is me, mea culpa, hands in the air, I'm sorry. Coppers and prison officers queuing up to tell me how things used to be much, much better in their day, and they've got rid of all the good ones with lots and lots of experience and replaced them, in the case of the prison service, with youngsters, in the case of the police service, with not enough people, or with people who are... I still don't buy into the idea that there's something wrong with hiring graduates, but clearly, sometimes, in the spirit of the stopped clock being right twice a day, sometimes in my dayitis actually has a purpose. And in my dayitis is an accurate diagnosis of a condition. So my apologies to all the prison officers, retired and resigned, who told me that disasters galore were on the horizon as a direct consequence of what Chris Grayling did to the prison and probation service. Sorry. But he's not in power anymore. David Lammy is in charge of this. And the question of how things could have got worse after he introduced measures to make things better is even more urgent than it was last time I asked it. Right, so that's enough from me. Get the phone lines open. 0345 6060973 is the number that you need. Drawing on your experience as a prison officer, a prison governor, a prison visitor, or indeed a prisoner, a probation officer, a police officer, a worker in or adjacent to the criminal justice system and the prison system. How on earth does this happen? Brackets, so often, close brackets, question mark. How the flip does it happen so often? Given that you name a job, we could all come up with the worst possible thing that could happen and chuckle about it, unless you're in the prison service, in which case it happens twice a day and nothing seems to happen. Nothing seems to occur. What explains these events? Simple question. God knows what the answer is. I certainly don't. 0345 6060 973 is the number that you need. Okay, how do you think, because no one's going to know for sure, but how do you think this happens? Nobody there, nobody at the gate, nobody in the... Just let's triple check. Look, we lost one by accident last week. Let's absolutely triple check, quadruple check. Let's go over it 1,000,000 times. You know, I do a live read on the programme sometimes for commercial partners. And, you get that wrong, they probably don't have to pay. You just go over it 5 times to make sure everything is absolutely shipshape and Bristol fashion. The idea that you don't double, triple, quadruple check, all of these things, it completely baffles me. It completely baffles me. And I want you to tell me how you think this happens. It is 20 minutes after 10.
James O'Brien on LBC.
It is 21 minutes after 10, and one rather obvious problem that we discovered last time we had this discussion is that working prison officers aren't really allowed to call in. They are contractually forbidden from doing so. This texter tells me that her husband, who works in the service, won't even let her call in. It happens because someone clicked the wrong box in an office where nobody knows anyone and everyone else is just doing what they've been told to do. Well, you can call me if you have recently left that job or if you have retired from the service but kept an eye on proceedings. William points out that if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. I'm not 100% comfortable with that conclusion because I'm sure there are lots of people who, I mean, even if they're not brilliant at their job, they're working very hard and they're committed to the cause. Unless you tell me, of course, that that's naive and foolish of me. But austerity cuts, William suggests, catch up with everyone in the end. It's truly amazing how many problems can be laid at the door of David Cameron. That's fair comment. And, of course, as we've established already, the double standards regarding the reporting of this stuff are, I mean, even by the standards of Tory client journalists, off the flipping charts. But you can't let that distract you from the state of the current, or from the current state of the system and the size of the current problems. The other thing that popped up last time we talked about it was the possibility that it was happening on purpose. And I was originally quite dismissive of that, but subsequently less so. I subsequently sort of thinking, well, you know, it's Occam's razor, isn't it? And also it's the old observation about in the presence of a vacuum, anything will move into it to explain what remains inexplicable to the rest of us. I suspect that the further away from the service you are, the easier it is to believe that I don't know, there's been a quiet conspiracy of prison officers to release prisoners early so that the world would finally wake up to the problems that they're working with. But I'm a long, long way from signing up to that particular explanation or conclusion. Even if that analysis is correct, even if it is just the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing, the question magnifies and becomes bigger after it happened last week and they were told to make sure it didn't happen this week. Madness. Absolute madness. 24 minutes after 10. Chris is in Sheffield. Chris, what's got your goat?
Good morning.
Hello, mate.
Well, I don't know, really. I just think it's Mickey Mouse stuff. Here I've got a guy stood in front of me. He's got to be let out. Why can't the society we? They must be employing monkeys. It's Mickey Mouse stuff.
Neither of us know what you have to do prior to releasing someone from prison.
It can't be that complicated.
It can't be, can it?
When you go to hospital and you're going to have your leg off, you know...
Oh, there's a good example. Well, no, because I said nothing disastrous, Chris. So a surgeon chopping off the wrong leg, which has actually happened.
Big toe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I went to new doctors yesterday. I'd never seen this doctor before. I had about, what's your name, what's your date of birth? Looked at my records. She knew who I were then. It's Mickey Mouse.
I think you're being a little being a little unfair on Mickey Mouse. I know it's a figure of speech, but I don't think he'd actually have presided over and it happens twice a week. Chris, that's the thing that seems to me to be most extraordinary. I don't really like making radio where listeners and presenters join in expressing sort of howling at the moon in complete but some days it's the only suit that fits, isn't it? It is literally unbelievable that this happens as often as it happens.
And no heads are rolling.
Well, whose head should roll?
The bloke that's done it.
What, the fellow on duty at the... Well, he's probably someone on 0 hours contract minimum wage or somebody upstairs. What if it's so understaffed? What if they have such problems filling these roles that the person whose head should roll isn't actually in the job at the moment, and the person who presided over this was doing something that they weren't supposed to be doing? Should his head roll?
Well, you know where he is with the head roll, isn't it?
I don't know, mate. Honestly.
Well, he's in House of Lords, isn't he?
Well, Chris Grayling's head isn't going to roll anytime soon, but you're right. He has found himself in the House of Lords. And maybe it's wrong. Again, phone lines are open to tell us why we're being unfair to Chris Grayling and all the people who warned that his changes to the probation service and prison service would end in frequent and repeated disaster are not currently being proved right. Thank you, Chris. Carl's in Derby. That's just by way of an aside, that's two places that I have deep personal family connections to. My mother is from Sheffield and I was born in Derby. A little bit of trivia for you. Carl, what would you like to say?
Well, first off, I'm a long-time listener from the United States, but I'm transplanted here to the UK. I've lived here for quite a long time.
How did you end up in Derby?
Long-time career in aerospace. Used to work at Rolls-Royce. Came from LA.
Fair enough.
Derby. I get asked that question all the time, but I jokingly tell people I came to the UK for the weather.
Yeah, well, you've got you're in the Rodeo Drive of the East Midlands there, Carl. So it's all a win. Anyway, what made you pick up the phone?
Well, I was listening to you. I decided to download the app last night next to listening to you live, and this one kind of struck a chord because my father is retired. Correctional officer, what we call in the U.S.
Okay.
And he worked 30 years in there. So, I have loads of stories from him and how we talk. But, when this thing hit the system, I just happened to talk to him yesterday about it. And I just was like, man, how did something like this happen? And I'm hearing you talk on the radio and you want to, we're blaming the Tories, we're blaming the Labor,
Well, I'm not actually. I'm genuinely fascinated by the operational reality at the prison door or the prison gate. That's what really intrigues me most this morning.
Yeah. So, like, my take and his take and what we talked about is like, these are normally just good people trying to do a job. And so it's inherent that it's just a system issue. This is not unique to the UK. This happens in my home country. This happens quite often. So the question becomes, and I heard you talk about how long would it take for you to get the sack at your job if you kept doing this twice a day? I would just put this analogy to this. Does mail get delivered to the wrong house all the time, every day in this country? It does. It's just system. People are following their procedures. And if the procedure is broke, if somebody's clicking the wrong button and there's no inherent checks in the system to prevent this, then it's just going to happen. It doesn't matter who's in charge. You could be left, you could be right, you could get the reform clowns in charge tomorrow, and it would happen tomorrow.
They'd probably close the prisons to save a few quid, like they're doing to care homes up in Lancashire at the moment. More on that later.
To me. I mean, I come from a country of mass incarceration, so the last thing I want to see in this country is more mass incarceration. So you're not going to find an argument for that.
No, well, that's a different political discussion where I suspect we're in full agreement with each other. It achieves nothing and satisfies nobody to go down this road. But I mean, are you letting people off the hook? I mean, because systems are full of people, and it's people that make mistakes. So if my postman delivers my private eye to a neighbour, as I think he may have done this week, I still blame him. I don't blame the system.
Oh, let's be clear. Yes, of course. The buck, as they say, has to stop somewhere. So somebody has to be responsible for checking the system to create, I have a degree in industrial engineering. And so as I used to practice that, we're looking for system failures. We're looking for single point failures. And so there has to be somebody up the ladder who has to help and find a way to create a system that prevents these things or minimizes. It's always going to be hard to keep it to zero. That shouldn't be you would want a baseline of zero, but unfortunately, you're always going to have system failures, system errors.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
that has to be checking for these.
So we'd
these
call
errors.
that, what would we call that, natural attrition, would we? I think, Carl. So you'd say, look, in any system, they are going to accidentally release some people every year, but at somewhere between 0 and 262 a year, I think we can all agree we reach the point where we say, no, that's not baked in.
There's a system problem.
There's something. I like that. I mean, in terms of an objective analysis of a problem that happens regardless of who is in power, albeit that 90% of the media pretends it only matters when Labour are in power, we don't want to go down that road, and we certainly don't want to go in the opposite direction. We want to treat both imposters just the same, to very, very brutally and vulgarly paraphrase Rudyard Kipling. What is the system error then? Is it going to be as simple as the wife of the man who is not allowed to ring me has told me in a text? My other half is a prison officer. You don't get people calling him because of their contracts. He won't let me call you. It happens because someone clicked the wrong box in an office where nobody knows anyone and everyone else is just doing what they've been told to do. Could it really be that simple and that awful and that avoidable 262 times a year?
James O'Brien on LBC.
10:34 is the time. 3 stories in sort of various parts of the news machine this morning, all of which offer a sort of validation of sorts of things that we've done on the programme relatively recently. One of them is everywhere. One of them is only on Sky News, a frankly brilliant piece of journalism undertaken by Sky News. And one of them is in, and this doesn't happen very often, one of them is in the female pages of the Daily Mail. And they are 3 positions that we've explored and endorsed on this programme that have now been taken up by the wider world, which is very, very gratifying. One of which is quite weird, one of which was kind of obvious, and one of which is a little bit overdue. I'm going to tell you what 2 of them are. Prince Andrew will be allowed to keep his Falklands War Medal. We had a very rare outbreak of unanimity on this programme late last week, when every single ex-military person who phoned me told me that they felt he should be able to keep his Falklands Medal. He should be stripped of absolutely everything else. But the Falklands Medal, given that it is awarded for service and service alone, should not be taken away because you can't undo the service. It cannot unhappen. The only sort of stick in the spokes of that reasoning was a footballer jailed for sex offences who actually did have his England caps taken away. So those appearances for England did somehow unhappen. But I can confirm that the King has decided not to strip his brother of his Falklands War Campaign Medal, as every single contributor to this programme called for, except one who wasn't ex-military. They made a good case, don't get me wrong, not being rude, but it was interesting, wasn't it, that every member of the military felt, despite holding Prince Andrew, ex-Prince Andrew, Andrew Windsor, in the lowest imaginable regard, that he should keep that particular medal. So that's the thing we did on the programme that has landed part 1. The thing we did on the programme recently that has landed part 2 is just a bit of a mad one that I went off on yesterday about what an absolute mess Twitter has become since Elon Musk bought it, and my profound conviction that it is neither accidental nor coincidental that the mess is almost all far-right or far-right adjacent. If you have a Nazi-saluting billionaire controlling an algorithm, what kind of stuff do you think it's likely to put in front of you? But the work that's been done by Sky News, which you can find on their website, or I've shared it on Blue Sky, is, I mean, simultaneously shocking and unsurprising, comprehensive and revelatory. Latter-day Lord Haw-Haws being plumped, preened and delivered to your doorstep in plain sight by a Nazi-saluting goon. But the detail, the forensic detail, the granular detail that Sky News have provided under the headline "The X Effect" is chilling, and surely making the case for the government to just pull out of that sewer entirely, and even perhaps do something to regulate the poison that is spread there, close to irresistible. And the third thing that we've done on the programme that has now been vindicated and validated by the broader media, brackets, was a very personal attack upon a very simple thing that I undertook last week or the week before. It was the week before, wasn't it? Because Eleanor was away. She probably wouldn't have let me do something so trivial and pathetic. But something I attacked on this programme a fortnight ago is now being attacked in, as you'd expect, much more obnoxious and unpleasant language in the pages of the Daily Mail. Can you guess what it is? What did I attack on the programme a couple of weeks ago that is now being attacked in rather more unpleasant and obnoxious language in the pages of the Daily Mail? Was the writer listening to this and thinking, oh, I could probably get 500 words out of that? Or is it a complete coincidence that somebody else has taken against something outwardly innocuous, but which disgusts me to my core? What was it? Can you think? 10:38 is the time. Back to prison releases. Grant is in Perth. Grant, what would you like to say? What can you tell us?
Good morning, James. Well, hopefully, I can shed some light and maybe madden you a little bit with how simple the answer is sometimes.
Yeah, go on.
So when we've had a few accidental releases in my time,
right,
as a prior serving officer, and basically prior,
so not fire. Yeah, I thought you said fire there. Prior.
No.
Yes.
That's why I'm allowed to phone you, because I no longer work in the service.
Yes, relatively recently resigned or retired.
2 years ago.
Okay, perfect.
So when somebody comes into custody, their liberation date is calculated. However, this is a manual process. So when I started, one of the days of my training was to sit down and take a judge's sentencing and translate that into an actual date. So straight away, you've got human error as a possible plus or minus a day here or there. Furthermore, when it comes to the day of release, it's not a computer that just spits out, this is the list of people that are going out today.
Right.
There's a specific department within the jail who deal with people coming in and out on a daily basis. And part of their job the night before is to go through and filter everybody by their liberation date. That should be relatively straightforward.
You'd think so.
However, we can have all sorts of issues abounding from human error. I know specifically that in the past we have had a liberation that happened because somebody who was raised in America but now lived in the UK and was working as a prison officer, they obviously have the date the wrong way around, don't they? They do month and end day instead of us doing day and then month.
No.
Yes.
You think that could be part of what, I mean, in some cases that is what has happened?
I can't speak to the...
No, in some cases.
That have happened this week. But yes, these are the sorts of reasons as to why this can happen. And it is maddeningly trivial. You would think that given if you're in custody...
So even if you double-checked, you'd just see the numbers and...
Yeah. And then when it comes to the actual release, all you're doing is verifying the identity of the individual. You've got their records.
So do you think if we looked into it, it's more likely to happen early in a month? Because if it's happening after the 12th, it doesn't work, does it? It has to happen before the 12th for the...
I would love to see this...
For the day and the month to be transposed, because this is... No, hang on, I think this was late... Was this late October or early November, the recent ones? Early November or late October?
I'm pretty sure the first one was October, to be fair to you.
Well, anyway, it is Occam's razor, but also my personal vacuum theory that I can't argue with you. A, you've got experience of what you're talking about, and B, it makes sense, but you were damn right about it not doing much to sort of reduce our collective blood pressures. Yeah. And how much trouble would you get into? Because that's the other thing that seems to be missing. I've got a little clip of Alex Chalk talking to Nick earlier, and he's a... Well, I always do the curse of O'Brien when I praise a Conservative, but he seems to be a relatively decent man and was... on this brief, and he points the finger way up the chain, whereas the temptation, I think, for us plebs is sometimes to blame it on the person at the bottom of the chain. That wouldn't necessarily be fair.
I think you would be... I think the public might be surprised, but I think you would be unsurprised to find out how little consequence there is for these sorts of errors.
Yeah. Yeah, no, well, that's why...
A strongly worded email,
maybe. God save us all from strongly worded emails. That is why I opened wondering what the biggest mistake, apocalypse and genuine disaster and death aside, what is the biggest mistake you could make at work? And most of us would face consequences, I suspect, greater than the ones that have so far been faced by the people who've let 262 prisoners out in the 12 months to March, an increase of 128% on the previous year. But to me, at least, and to everybody not associated with or adjacent to the service, that's way too. That's 115 too many anyway. And so you take Carl's point in Derby about a system error and natural attrition. Nobody's perfect, you know. You will make mistakes in any context, even in huge contexts. But at the point at which inevitability becomes epic incompetence is important to pin down. Thank you, Grant. Lovely stuff. Jim's in Leeds. Jim, what can you tell us?
James, we spoke the other day.
After Kabatu got released.
I won't tell you off again.
No, that's all right. Thank you. I get
I'm
enough
forgiving
of
you
that.
now.
You're very kind.
I know. I try my best. But anyway, I just spoke to a producer, I think it was. I was literally going to go back into the service after leaving. I've got my conditional offer come back through. Just doing my background checks. After the last one yesterday, I was walking home. I had a nice walk in Bushy Park, enjoying the sunshine, and I thought, no. I was at the Prime Minister's questions, and I heard you talking to Natasha, and then I was like, okay, something must be coming. Then you released it, and I thought, I cannot go back. This is a farce now.
Really?
How can it keep? How can it keep happening? I can sort of carry on from the last guy was saying. So basically, in the morning, reception staff go upstairs. They go and collect who has been released or bailed that day, or got video link. They go and put them in a holding cell down in reception.
Right.
They got to the cell. They would say O'Brien, prison number, blah blah blah.
Whoa, that scared me a bit. Don't do that. Call him Keith.
No, I can't do that. He sounds nicer than you.
Carry on then.
So O'Brien, you're being released today. Blah blah blah. Okay, thank you, Gov. Come to the front desk. The senior officer will say O'Brien, blah blah blah. Look at your.
Stop saying my name.
Your custody file is what it is. It comes from custody. You deal with your release dates.
Right.
They'll say, "Yep, you're going home today. Yep, fine. Can you confirm your date of birth, your address? Thank you very much." Then they give you a little chitty thing, like a carbon copy. So I think it's a white and a pink or something like that. And one stays in reception, say no, I don't think we've been released that day.
Right.
I'll take that to the gate with the prisoner. Get to the gate, the OSG, which is the operational support grade, say sort of like control the doors and the cameras and stuff. I take it to them. They say they won't question who's been released. They just say thanks very much.
Right.
Give them a little chitty. As far as they're concerned, their job's now done. My job's done. The guy goes home. A couple of hours later,
we shouldn't. So
Wrong
just
person.
back up a bit, will you? I genuinely, I mean, I was half joking when I said it, but I did get distracted by you saying my name in your proper prison officer voice, and I got a bit scared, and I lost I lost. Very welcome, sir. And I lost concentration a bit.
Sir, I'm not important enough for you, so I can assure you that.
But you are on that job, of course. When did the mistake happen?
It would have happened in custody. The people who are admin staff would be working out release dates. So the guy before was quite right. So you might have had.
So you are carrying in your hand proof that this release is supposed to happen. The mistake took place in an office 12 corridors away.
You're completely right. It's nothing to do with the officer or the OSG or the senior officer or even the governor, because you go into the computer system, I can't remember what it's called. It used to be called LID, it's called some other stupid name now. And it'll say on there, I'll use my name now, Mr. Jim.
Yeah.
Release date today. Okay, thank you very much.
And I can't, there's nothing I can do to double check or question.
Unless you go to custody and get them to work it all out again. But again, like the guy said, he's absolutely spot on. It's done by hand.
And you'll be the most unpopular officer in the building if you make them double-check their homework every 20 minutes.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
And I can speak about Wandsworth because I work there.
Yeah.
I know one good thing Boris done, and I can't stand the man, on a Thursday is Foreign National Day.
Right.
So it used to be Mr. Johnson, I call it actually, call him Boris, he never called Mr. He would say all the prisoners from all over the country, say they're Polish, Lithuanian, Romanian, whatever, are being deported. They come down to Wandsworth, but the Met Police have to go and collect them. They could be in Leeds. So Met Police go up and collect them from Leeds, bring them back to Wandsworth.
Yeah.
Boris said, costing us too much money. So now on the day, they would drive down, say from Leeds please, with a prisoner to Wandsworth to be collected, taken to Biggin Hill Airport on a big bus home.
Okay. And that was when he was mayor or when he was Prime Minister?
That was when he was mayor.
I thought so.
Because he obviously thought it's costing us too much money.
No, I like that. And you know how this programme works. Even the worst people on the planet get their credit where credit is due. You don't know. Sam's been in touch. It's a bit weird, but I'll share it with you. He says, I want to be mates with this guy. I'm still
Send
a bit...
me my number.
I'll put you in touch. You can have a bromance. But We don't know how the mistake in the office has happened then, how because it's done by hand. So we're back to Grant's suggestion that they might have transposed the day and the month, and that the 12th of the 1st became the 1st of the 12th.
Possibly. But these people, again, very much under pressure.
Sure.
Staff sittings and stuff. You might have people working there who've never worked at custody before, might be an officer.
Agency staff? Will there be agency staff in there? Will there be agency staff in there or not?
That I wouldn't know, but possibly.
Okay. Certainly there'll be people who haven't got much experience.
That's it. It could be an officer who's just been assaulted now because they're on what they call light duties.
Yeah.
They're working in custody. Never done a job before in their life.
And it's all done on paper.
All done on paper. Everything's done on paper, James.
Why is that? So that it can't be hacked? Or just because they haven't got around to modernising it?
When I first started, James, in 2004, the computer system was a blue screen with yellow writing.
Right.
When they brought in the new NHS systems, they brought in the new system for the prison service. It was hopeless.
Surely not.
Two more things, James. I know you're going to kick me off, but
I'm not actually. I am a bit late for the break, but you've got. I could listen to you all day.
So
this is you're the proof. Hang on, just that you're what I mean when I say on some subjects I don't even need 4 calls. I only need 1 call. But there's still a few gaps in our knowledge. But my goodness me, you've plugged most of them.
James, 2 last very quick things. You stole my headline the other day about handing my keys in at the gate, but I'll let you have that one for free. But very last one. When I left Highdown to go to work at Wandsworth, when I turned up there, I said, I was working in Induction unit. We used to have a roll board at Highdown. Get to Wandsworth. You've got a roll board. What's that? So you know who's in each cell? No. We never had that before. I said, so how do you know who's in which cell? Well, we don't really. Basically, we get to lunchtime, we count them. I said, okay, and so if Mr. Jim has gone off to education, where do you know who he is? Well, we don't. Oh. So you have no idea in prison on your wing at the time? No. Okay.
And that's probably part of how Daniel Khalif managed to actually escape from prison.
Exactly.
And we will be talking to the chap, or rather we'll be listening to Nick's conversation with the chap who was prisons minister when Daniel Khalif escaped from prison. What's worse? Because I don't know what my answer to this question is. What's worse? Because you'd think on paper someone escaping is worse than someone being released early, but someone escaping...
100%.
Yeah, well, in some senses it is, but in terms of... It surely is easier to stop someone escaping than it is to stop someone being released early.
You would think so.
Yeah.
If the person in charge of that loading bay or lorry would be harder.
Yeah.
But James, we both know if it wasn't for Farage and his mates, if this person wasn't a foreign national,
we wouldn't be
let's just
talking
say
about
it was me.
Yeah.
I'm a white Anglo-Saxon man. I've been released from prison error. I don't know. I stole some vodka from some random shop.
Sure.
People wouldn't care.
No, we wouldn't be talking about it at all. Well, it's because Kabatu was responsible for the assault outside that repurposed hotel in Epping. And there's a reason why that, but you're right. I mean, you know, we're in a world where the crime doesn't matter and the victim doesn't matter, but the ethnicity of the perpetrator or the accused is the single most important thing going on anywhere. And I don't know how you turn that oil tanker around, but it's always reassuring to me to hear people like you recognise the reality that we're all living in, despite the fact that, I don't know, 52% of the population haven't noticed yet. Thank you, Jim. Great, I mean, amazing. Top that. It is 10:51.
James O'Brien on LBC.
10:54 is the time. It's the 3/4 zip knit. If you didn't work it out, an extraordinary number of people did, which is frankly very, very gratifying proof that you are paying attention as I burble away, often inconsequentially. But I've got a bit of a problem. I didn't fully work out why. Those little tops, woolen ones, I don't mind the ones that are made out of like tracksuit material if you're wearing them to, for example, play tennis. You know, I got accused of hypocrisy on the courts because someone had heard me slagging off the 3/4 zips and then caught me wearing one when I was playing tennis. But that was sportswear. That was sportswear, not smart casual. And someone's written a piece for the Daily Mail attacking them, sadly, largely because there's a photograph of Prince Harry wearing one. And I like Prince Harry, but I do not like quarter zips. So, yes, it was that. Tim says, I agree. It's up there with golf and personalised number plates. I don't know you can put golf on the hook for that kind of thing. I feel bad now. Jim was going to go back into the prison service, and he sounded like a very good prison officer. And because he was listening to the programme yesterday, and obviously we were chronicling the current malaise, he's now decided not to. But he was also proof of a particular pudding that I described to you at the top of the show, which is why on some subjects you don't need 100 people in a queue, all often saying exactly the same thing. You need someone who really knows what they're talking about. And there he was, telling us how this happens. present tense, sadly, because I don't think it's going to be a thing of the past anytime soon, however hard politicians may try to pretend otherwise, which is why politicians who generally don't play the footballification game are so valuable. Unfortunately, this fella's not an MP anymore. He's a former Justice Secretary, and indeed he was Justice Secretary when Daniel Khalif escaped from Wandsworth Prison in September of 2023. You remember that case, because that got extraordinary and quite correct amounts of coverage, because prison escapes are still sort of filed under the man bites dog school of thought for many years in this country. Prisoners being released early got filed under dog bites man until Labour got into power, at which point they become the biggest stories in town and prompt all sorts of hysteria, up to and including Radio 4's Today programme. He's now working as a barrister, but unsurprisingly, he hasn't forgotten what it was like to be in charge of the Justice Department when somebody fairly high profile escaped from a supposedly secure prison. And Alex Chalk KC was talking to Nick Ferrari earlier this morning about this situation in general.
When it comes to releases in error, whilst it's correct that they did exist in the past, what we've seen over the last year is it's more than doubled, and I think that is a big structural issue. That's point one. Point two, that really would alarm me as Secretary of State, is that the prison service didn't seem to be aware for 6 days that this guy had gone missing. That's terribly troubling as well. And then the other thing is, whilst on one view, I have a sort of an element of personal sympathy almost for David Lammy. He's come in quite recently and this has happened. We lost Daniel Khalif when I came in.
Yes.
But you've got to be frank with the House of Commons. When this issue is put to you, our political tradition, quite rightly, is you hold your hands up, you fess up and you explain. But I do think it was a mistake to be so evasive yesterday, and I think his colleagues will be holding their heads in their hands. What's going on at Wandsworth? It is true that Wandsworth has been a problem prison for a long time.
It was a problem on your watch, sorry to interrupt you, because you were the boss when Daniel Khalif, as my colleague Henry Riley reported.
And that's a fair point. It was. So we've got about 100 prisons, that's point one, and there are something like 48,000 releases every year. So we've got to keep it in some kind of context. 48,000 releases, 100 prisons. And a lot of prisons are fantastic. Go to HMP Cardiff, brilliant, really good prison. Five Wells, Fossway doing quite well. But Wandsworth is an issue. And so I do think there's got to be, you've got to get the governor in. And here's another really important point. So quite rightly in Britain, when things go wrong, people either say, well, look, let's have an inquiry. Who was the guy on the wing or in the offender management unit made the mistake? And who's the Secretary of State? That's true. And that's fair. But you've also got to look. There is a whole band of extremely well-paid senior managers who I'm afraid there really needs to be some focus on, just as when hospitals are failing, who's the chief executive, etc. So I do think there needs to be some focus on that as well. But Wandsworth is a problem prison, it's got to get sorted. After COVID, when basically the courts stopped, ground to a halt, the pre-trial detention population went from around 9,000 to 16,000. So that additional 7,000 is in the context of an overall prison capacity of about 88,000. That was what caused the immediate issue. And so that is perfectly true. Now, there are structural issues. I just want to make this point as well. The entire budget of the Ministry of Justice, which deals with all these prisons, the entire probation service, all the courts, all the legal aid up and down the land, over 100 prisons, Youth Offender Institute, that annual budget is spent by the Department for Work and Pensions in about 2 weeks. We will only get on top of the investment we need in these vital services if you get on top of the welfare stuff. So I accept there has been long-term structural issues. Those have got to be addressed, but they will only be addressed if wider public spending is got under control.
Apologies to Alfred Herbert. Paul, that reminds me, there's a story about the IEA in the news at the moment. Michael and to Gary. But I wanted to play that out because, well, for 2 reasons. Number one, it was really interesting and Alex Chalk knows what he's talking about. And number two, it plays very directly into what I was saying about the importance of leaving tribal loyalties at the door when you're discussing the national interest. And he did that, I thought, very effectively. Some people gloriously unaware of hideous sex offenders released under the Tories because it wasn't very widely reported. But Alex Chalk reminding us that it doesn't matter what party you belong to, if you've got your head screwed on and your eyes are clear and you have integrity, then you can discuss these matters in a way that doesn't sound like your script has been written by central office. We should value that more.
James O'Brien on LBC.
It's 3 minutes after 11. As Henry Riley mentioned to us yesterday, Kent Council is meeting this morning, for the first time since that video of them all swearing at each other went viral, and 5 members? I can't keep up. It's hard enough keeping up with how many of the MPs are still MPs. or at least still members of the party. But the councillors are, off the charts. It's about 1 in 20, I think, who've left, resigned, been chucked out, or, I don't know, changed, defected since they got elected. But hey-ho, we're about to trust them with the country, according to many observers. But Kent Council has been meeting for the first time since that mass expulsion, and Henry Riley, with perhaps a little bit too much glee, has been keeping an eye on things for you. He'll bring us up to date with developments at about 11:30. And then I'm very glad to tell you, because I don't often I really want to do something to the point of coming off air at 1 o'clock, disappointed that I didn't. But I really want to tell you more about this Sky News investigation into what Elon Musk has done to Twitter, which you've heard me wanging on about quite a lot from a very anecdotal perspective, from a very first-person perspective. In fact, it's a doubly difficult perspective because I haven't really used Twitter since the end of last year, and yet it had become clear to me even then that it was being very, very deliberately manipulated to promote hideous racism and far-right propaganda. We'll be talking to one of the journalists responsible for this brilliant Sky News investigation at about 11:45. And after that, of course, it being Thursday, it will be Mystery Hour. Would you like, speaking of mysteries, would you like a little multiple choice? Do you want a little multiple choice? OK, you can have a little multiple choice. Donors to Farage Partners Institute guilty of blank. Donors to Farage Partners Institute guilty of blank. Is it A, battering ex-girlfriends? Is it B, fraud? Or is it C, putting up so many flags that they can't put up any Christmas lights? So this is the girlfriend of Nigel Farage, who was working as a waitress, quite possibly in a cocktail bar, when she met him, but somehow ended up with £885,000 in cash to buy a home in Clacton earlier this year, a home that Farage originally claimed he'd paid for, but then revealed that actually he hadn't, she had, which meant that he avoided, they avoided paying the stamp duty surcharge that would have been required had it been his second home, as he originally claimed it was, before subsequently claiming that it actually wasn't, and the former waitress had £885,000 in cash lying around with which she was able to buy the house. Seems a timely moment to remind you that you don't have to take bribes from Kremlin stooges to parrot Kremlin talking points in the European Parliament, like Farage's old friend Nathan Gill. You are perfectly free to do it for nothing. You are perfectly free to parrot Kremlin talking points in the European Parliament in the way that Farage's close friend Nathan Gill did in return for money from a Kremlin stooge. You are perfectly free to do that in return for nothing whatsoever. You could just do it because, I don't know, you agree with the Kremlin or it's fun. It's very important to remember that. And it is equally possible to find £885,000 down the back of your sofa when you were working as a waitress, possibly in a cocktail bar, just a few years previously, and you haven't, done much since that would explain how you ended up with that kind of cash. But anyway, it's a multiple choice. Donors to Farage Partners Institute guilty of A, battering an ex-girlfriend, B, fraud, or C, putting up so many tatty old flags that you won't be able to put up any Christmas lights in that part of town. I'll reveal the answer to that to you shortly. But I want next to do something we've done before and we will do again because it's important. And this is not the kind of thing that you wanted to happen under Labour because it happened so much under the Tories. But again, as with prison early releases, you've got to try not to be too partisan. 15 local areas have closed waiting lists. Another 31 have introduced tighter criteria, making it much more difficult for adults to access support for ADHD. Specialist ADHD services for adults in England are stopping taking on new patients as they struggle to cope with demand. Now, this isn't austerity, to be clear. This will simply be that the system as it stands can't cope with the demand. Whether or not they then re-engineer the system, increase the capacity to supply and to meet demand, we'll have to wait and see. But in the very first instance, they simply haven't got the staff, the trained staff, to support people with ADHD, so they're having to say to people seeking diagnosis or treatment that we can't put you on this list because it's already so long that we can't see the end of it. So politically, it's too early to say where this will lead or whether balls have been dropped. It is a simple reflection of the increase in demand without any commensurate increase in supply, right? 9 minutes after 11 is the time. Because the question I've got for you is this, and I'm not going to lie to you, I have a personal interest in this. You have suggested to me, and I don't want to turn this into something funny, because an ADHD diagnosis is a very serious business. And if it is a condition I have, then I don't currently think that it's had or is having a particularly deleterious effect on my life, because like most things that are on a curve or most things that are on a spectrum, if I'm on it, I presume I'm fairly low in the foothills of what it can be. I interviewed a brilliant actor yesterday. In fact, quite a lot of people that pop up on Full Disclosure display what we sometimes call an itchy brain. I don't know whether it lends itself to creativity or whether it lends itself to certain pursuits and pastimes and even professions, but it does seem to pop up quite a lot on Full Disclosure. And what I'm really interested in is that the difference that a diagnosis makes. We know that it can cause people to act impulsively and become easily distracted. You also have the corollary of that, which is hyperfocus. So I suspect that if I am on this particular spectrum, there are few jobs in the world better suited to me than this one. So when I was a newspaper journalist, the deadlines, I was awful. I mean, it's when I've got a book on the go. It's just like making rods for my own back all the time, waking up in the morning at the weekend and knowing that I need to knuckle down and do 4 hours work and then not doing it. And feeling awful with every passing hour, just sort of distracted and itchy and knowing with every passing hour that my life is getting worse. And I was like that at school with essays. And it's very hard to explain to somebody who doesn't actually live it, who doesn't actually know what it's like. Why didn't you do your homework? Are you mad? And you honestly don't know why you didn't do your homework. I'm not expecting sympathy. I'm just expecting empathy, perhaps, from people for whom this itchiness, this impulsivity is a much bigger problem than it ever has been for me. And what I want to know is what difference the diagnosis makes to adults. One thing we've discovered on the programme together over the years is the number of mums and dads that have had their child diagnosed and consequentially gone, it's an actual thing, is it? Okay, I think I'm going to go and do a test as well. I think I'm going to go and get a diagnosis as well. The obvious tabloid response or the right-wing response to this is to claim that we just called it naughty in our day or that it doesn't really exist. That is technically known as being very, very thick and nasty, that approach. And if that's the approach you're minded to take, there are plenty of media outlets where you'll be made very, very welcome, but this is categorically not one of them. So if you're feeling thick and nasty today, maybe retune your radio or something, because I am interested in real people enduring real problems that are quite possibly about to get worse as specialist ADHD services for adults in England are stopping new patients joining the register and struggling to cope with demand. I don't want to go in on that angle specifically because it's still a little bit nebulous, but I do want to go in on the angle of people who have accessed help and have successfully found support. And I simply want you to tell me what difference it made. And is it ever too late? I can't remember, I think I've told you this before, but when I sort of found myself making enormous breakthroughs in therapy, I expressed a bit of regret that I hadn't done so sooner, because I was sort of thinking about the changes and the differences that making certain discoveries and doing the work, you've always got to do the work, have made to my life. And I was thinking, God, this would have been nice if I'd done this in my 20s or my 30s or my 40s. And the answer is always better late than never. So I wonder if we can find the latest diagnosis with the very important question of the difference that it has made, what difference it has made to you. Because I think that's probably the best way to deal with the people who are currently in thrall to the stupid and the thick, and nasty rhetoric, but who are not necessarily going to be defined by it. It's very important to remember that. Closest this program has ever come to having a catchphrase was in the aftermath of Brexit, when we insisted on contempt for the con men and compassion for the conned. I can't explain to you easily how to tell the difference, but Kate's husband, who was probably the most powerful story of this week, the woman who rang me on Monday to describe how joyful her husband was when he thought that the train attacks at the weekend were acts of Islamist terrorism, because it would somehow prove something about immigration, and the grin she described him displaying as he relayed to her that people were in mortal danger, mortal peril, because it would somehow indulge or endorse his racism, which she blamed upon Nigel Farage, by the way. And that's the point. That's the difference between the conned and the con man. Contempt for the con man, but compassion for the conned. So people buying into the Daily Mail analysis of special educational needs or neurodiversity or whatever it is are not initially or immediately to blame. They can be helped, and the best way to help them is to tell them the truth. And today that truth will involve what happens when you get a diagnosis, the difference it makes to your life, because that's the best way, essentially, to map how bad it is that it's going to be harder to get one in many areas. I think that's pretty clear. 0345 6060 973 is the number you need. It's 11:15.
James O'Brien on LBC.
It is 17 minutes after 11, and we do the self-flagellation. It's probably my Catholic upbringing. I've got one more apology to make to you, having apologised to all prison officers. That's what Jim in Leeds was referring to, by the way, when he said he forgives me, if you were wondering about that comment at the beginning of his call. I was wrong about the footballer losing his England caps. His defence barrister claimed in court that he had his England caps taken away. But the FA later revealed that he hadn't, and that there is no capacity, which makes sense, right? Because the logic of taking away Prince Andrew's Falklands Medal. How can I be the only person who called him Andrew Windsor until he actually had his title taken away? And now after he's had his title taken away, I keep forgetting to take his title away. It's like the whole world has caught up with us and we've gone into reverse. Andrew Windsor will keep his Falklands Medal because you can't unhappen something. You can't undo something. He got it for being there. And it's the same with the footballer who was convicted of sex offences against a teenage girl, a 15-year-old girl, I think. I don't want to say his name. Is that all right? Is that okay with you? I'm not going to say his name. I don't want to say his name. Actually, no, I should say his name because Adam Johnson. Didn't lose his England caps, although that's what his barrister claimed in court. So I'm happy to clear that up. And also, not an apology, but just an acknowledgement that I understand how easy it is to slip into we just called it naughty in my day. I don't know what ADHD means, because I used to slip into that. The best way to understand it is dyslexia, mate. Well, just find a diversity you believe and then think how that was treated 30 years ago. And that will hopefully help you see more prevalent or more commonly diagnosed neurodiversities today in a slightly more positive and generous light. But what difference does a diagnosis make when you are an adult? Michael's in Brentwood. Michael, what would you like to say?
Good morning, James.
Hello, Michael.
Thank you for taking on the call and thank you for talking about this as well.
You're most welcome.
I'm a little bit nervous.
It's only me.
Apologies if my voice.
It's only me.
Yeah, I know. But you know. So yes, I think you're talking about me earlier on in the intro. I'm 40 now.
Yeah.
I was 36 when I was diagnosed, and medicated from the age of 37. Now, childhood, going to school and what have you. I mean, I wasn't interested. I was bored. I was a little bit of a troublemaker.
Sure.
Never got into trouble as such, but I just wasn't there for it. It wasn't until, my eldest son, now 16, he was, I think, 3 or 4. Sorry, excuse me.
That's all right.
I'm quite nervous.
Okay, mate. Is there anything I can do to help? Do you want a cup of tea?
No. It's all good.
Keith, get him a biscuit. Will you? Get him a fig roll. I've got some fig rolls in the back. All right, do you like a fig roll, Michael? Go on. I don't know if I'm helping.
The way you described a second ago, he was flagged up to us as his parents as, we think there might be something a little bit more here.
Yeah.
And my spouse would say, as she was filling out the form for him, because I couldn't be trusted to fill out a form, being ADHD.
Because you'd get distracted or because you wouldn't finish it? Or you just...
I'd just note it off. Priorities are a really strange thing for me. Anything which is not, priority 1 or 100, depending which end of the scale, is just not a priority. Anything that isn't an immediate priority just doesn't need to be done.
Got it. And you'll only do it when it's already too late, because that sort of sense of emergency is the only thing that focuses your mind.
Correct.
Got it.
Yes. As she was filling out his forms, she was box checking for everything that was me as well.
How did you feel about that at the time?
Well, she didn't tell me.
Okay.
It was only when my son, received an affirmative diagnosis from a child psychologist. His psychologist, upon delivering the news that he is both autistic and probably ADHD, she said, "And you know what? So are you, Michael." I was like, "Oh, thanks. Great. Cheers, Doc." So I kind of went from a point where...
It's because your wife had filled it in for you as well, or just because she...
No, just because the psychiatrist had, observed
spotted it.
Many of the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, or much of the stuff.
How did you feel about that? And in that specific moment, Mike? Cool.
Initially, I was dealing with the news first of all. That my son had just received diagnosis, so I already had I had kind of doubts about it on behalf of my son. First of all, because from my perspective, this is my son. This is just normal.
Yes.
And then for her to doubly say, "Oh, and you too, Michael," it kind of throws me for a bit of a loop.
No kidding.
The following weeks and months, there was acceptance that my son is, and then a bit of, remembering things about my own life. Yeah. And all of a sudden, the knowledge of this, it kind of gave me like a missing cog to the clockwork of my brain.
What a beautiful analogy. What a beautiful analogy.
I've been working on it for about 10 years. I think.
Well, it's worked. It was worth the effort.
All of a sudden, so many things made sense. Why I was so weird, compared to all of my peers in school. I was the oddball. I was the weird kid.
Oh.
Why I was never satisfied with anything.
Right.
Why I held myself to some kind of illusory standard.
Yeah.
In comparison to my peers that I just frankly was unable to achieve. All of these things started to kind of make sense. It took me then another 8 to 10 years to get a personal diagnosis.
Wow.
And at that point, that was when, upon getting my own diagnosis, it was really a turning point for me. It was...
Why did it take so long?
Because accept things.
Because you couldn't see the point? Or because you were being resistant? Or?
I kind of started the process initially with my own GP, probably a year or two later. As an aside, I'd suffered deeply with depression throughout my entire life.
Okay.
Which, again, upon reflection, is because of the is because I was never caught. I was never diagnosed as ADHD.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that fed my my depression were kind of a knock-on effect of...
Well, you've already explained why. Because you felt like a failure. You were holding yourself to unattainable standards and missing all the time. Of course you're going to get depressed.
Yes. I was misdiagnosed a couple of times through private practice. Most notably as bipolar disorder.
Okay.
Which, when medicated for that, made things 20 times worse.
Yeah.
As I say, diagnosed affirmatively at 36, medicated at 37. Since treatment medication, I've been promoted 3 or 4 times in my career. I've seen my wage packet, if not double, if not triple.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm also been recently accepted onto a master's degree to further my education in computer science. So it's had an impact, right?
Productivity.
Diagnosis works.
You're describing productivity, essentially, but more importantly than even productivity, you're describing contentment, I think.
To a point, yeah. It's not been a magic bullet.
No, of course.
There's still a lot of my psychology, which is very ADHD.
Yeah.
And medication doesn't erase that. It makes things a little bit more tolerable.
Use another analogy.
The kind of trauma.
No, okay, I didn't want to make light of it, but give me another analogy, because I love the idea of I mean, in the same way, you're describing what's happened when the cog has been put in place in the machine, aren't you? But is it like the noise has been turned down in your brain, and you can actually get on with things you want to get on with without mystifying yourself as to why you're not doing stuff?
That's I guess that's 70% of the way there. You know, that's a close fitting analogy.
Yeah.
One of the things I've learned recently, and this is a bit of an aside, although it speaks to your analogy. One of the things I've learned recently is that my people, ADHD people with a smaller prefrontal cortex, because it is a physiological thing as well.
It? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's the prefrontal. I'm pretty sure prefrontal cortex is smaller in growth.
Right.
But one of the consistent things that is felt by my people is constant music in our head. Constant, just unending music. And taking a tablet in the morning sometimes stops that music.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, I never make these conversations short, because there's so much to cover, and I know that a lot of people who are waiting to contribute will feel seen as a consequence of you articulating yourself so well. The music thing is, I asked a music teacher when I was about 15 if he could hear music in his head all the time, and he looked at me as if I was nuts. And he was a music teacher.
I made a habit now of, for the past few years, collating all of the, some people would call it intrusive thoughts, right? Intrusive thoughts are songs. And a lot of the music that comes into my brain has simply no business being there.
Sure.
It's not music I particularly enjoy or have listened to, but I now make a job of cataloguing it as the year goes through. So I've got a constant playlist of the nonsense music that comes into my brain.
Wow. I mean, thank you. And an awful lot of people getting in touch to say that this is me talking, Michael, as in it's them. You're describing exactly what they've been through, particularly in similar age ranges. But I like this message in particular. It says, what a lovely guy. His self-recognition is so interesting. And that's one of those perfect conversations where you come away from it knowing a lot more than you did going in. Also, Michael, you'll like this from Jason. He says he went to a family therapy meeting with his son after his son was diagnosed with ADHD, and towards the end the therapist turned to Jason and said, "And when were you diagnosed, Jason?" And that's when he decided he was probably going to go and have to see somebody himself. So go on.
Shortly following my diagnosis, you know, it was news that really shook me. So there were friends that I'd had for my entire life and kind of extended family members, and I'd speak to them about it and say, you know, I've just been diagnosed as being ADHD, and more or less all of them would come back at me and say, look, what, didn't you know? I wish you'd told me. Come on. I'm like,
I love that. You're not sounding nervous now.
It's all because of you.
Well, it's not. It's because you told the story so well, and you are completely across why it is important, and now a lot of other people are as well. Staying with this for a little bit longer, 0345 60973. A few bits and bobs to get through, but if you want to join the conversation, you know what to do. I love that message from Jason. Sheena makes a brilliant point. In terms of maybe I'm being a bit unfair when I talk about people who are thick and nasty, but I just get so frustrated sometimes with the ease with which the thickness and the nastiness can be poured into your ears on subjects like this by ignorant people who don't care about anything. So Sheena reminds us that even left-handedness wasn't a thing years ago. It would be beaten out of you. You would literally have being left-handed beaten out of you. Goes back millennia, I think. The Latin word for left-handed is sinister, would you believe? And on a similar theme, this from James, my favourite comeback regarding all mental health, particularly how autism has been invented recently rather than discovered, is that Pluto was discovered in 1930, but we're pretty sure it was always there.
James O'Brien on LBC.
It's 33 minutes after 11. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC, joined by Henry Five Clips Riley now to discuss the latest shenanigans at Kent County Council. Did we discuss yesterday that they're cancelling Christmas as a consequence, or parts of Kent may not be able to put up their Christmas lights because of all the tatty flags that people have hung from lampposts?
That's right, yeah. This is one of the parish councils in Kent that has been moaning because Kent County Council are now saying they need to remove the flags in order to put up the Christmas lights.
Why do they hate this country?
I'll put it to the leader if I get a chance to speak with Lyndon Kemcaran. There has been an update since we spoke yesterday.
But if they don't remove the flags, then ask them why they hate Christmas.
Yeah, it's a lose-lose,
So if they
really.
do remove the flags, ask them why they hate this country. And if they don't remove the flags, ask them why they hate Christmas.
Why can't you just do both? Keep the flags in there.
Ridiculous health and safety.
That's true.
Anyway, they've been meeting for the first time since the last time, and the last time was online, and 5 of them ended up no longer being Kent County councillors.
Yeah, it wasn't great. They had this sort of leaked meeting to The Guardian. That was one that was in private. This is full council today, and there has been some speculation, it may still happen, James, that the leader, Lyndon Kemcaran, could face a vote of no confidence. That hasn't happened so far, but since we spoke yesterday, it's now 39 councillors that have left Reform because Izzy Kemp, who's another on Kent County Council, has left. She was sacked. Interestingly, James, as well, she also
used sack a councillor
or suspended or been kicked out. But interestingly, she works for Reform Party as well. She's the data protection officer for Reform, and I have had it confirmed that she's been sacked from her job at Reform HQ as well. So she's.
Do we know what for?
Don't know at this stage. There's a suggestion it may be to do with some communication surrounding the Kent leader, perhaps calling for her to go. But I need to fully get my ducks in a row on that one. But she's apparently going to consider legal action against Reform. Anyway, that wasn't a great sort of start. And equally, before the meeting, it wasn't a great start when, as we spoke yesterday, the independent group announced their new party.
Today we are officially about to introduce and begin our group at Kent County Council, the Independent Reformers. The simple question, the simple reason why we're doing this is because the KCC Constitution does not adequately protect independence unless you're part of a political group and you have no say on the committee structure, committee appointments, and what you can really do to influence the workings of KCC. So today we begin our group. We genuinely, between the two of us, hope that other members that have been expelled join us so we can continue working hard for the residents of Kent.
And I owe you an apology, James, because it's not the independent reform of Kent, as I told you yesterday. It's the independent reformists on Kent. So slightly different to what I told you. And I know you found
details matter.
I know, apologies.
Details matter. And the People's Front of Judea?
Yes, no update on them yet. He was not alone. There's 2 in this new party, despite the fact there's 9 councillors who've gone on Kent, ex-Reform. There's only 2 in the independent reformers, one of whom is Robert Ford. He said that he's being bullied because of an erotic novel he'd written previously.
So I wrote an email to my colleagues addressing the bullying happening around us in KCC. I knew I would face consequences for this, but I was prepared for that. What followed, however, shocked me. I'm currently taking legal advice regarding defamation of my character by by Reform UK and KCC that occurred on October the 13th. I intend in the coming months to pursue this with vigour. A few days ago I discovered so-called complaints against me, all relating to my novel writing. It's astonishing that my name can be defamed simply because I wrote an erotic novel and got it published by a major company. And I then mentioned it to a few people in the building behind me. It's a shame that our great nation has come to this. Thank you.
I mean, our great nation has come to this. Is he the bloke Nigel had earmarked for Chancellor?
No, not him. But unfortunately, Robert Ford's quite a common name. I tried to see if I could find the erotic novel.
He probably wrote it under a nom de plume.
Oh, that's true. No luck yet. But that was before the meeting. The meeting is now...
your own collection?
No, I haven't got it. I promise you. A small book collection in the Riley household. Then the meeting did get underway, James.
They increased our national debt by 277%. And they oversaw 9.8 million people come into our country. Is there a reason people like me are leaving the Conservatives in droves and going over to Reform UK?
Don't keep shushing me.
No, I'll take the point of order at the end. I'll take the point of order and carry on. Thank you.
But Mr. Chairman, that's not how it works.
You don't tell the chairman to shush. That's totally
I wasn't
wrong.
talking.
Well, I'll take the point of order at the end. Please carry on, Leader.
Oh, don't worry. Don't worry. Forget it.
Is she the one that Nigel has got earmarked for Chancellor?
No, I don't think she had a job lined up.
Foreign Secretary?
TBC. And when the leader did sort of get going, Lyndon Kemcaran, who's the leader of Kent, just to remind you, Nigel Farage said when they won, this was going to be the sort of blueprint for a reform UK government, because it's the largest authority they run.
Soon to claim he didn't say that, I imagine.
I remember talking to him about it.
Doesn't matter, mate. Soon claim he didn't say it. You mark my word. When I've ever been wrong about the man. Anyway, carry on.
The leader, Lyndon Kemcaran, then compared her experience leading the council to her son, who's in the army.
Oh.
It transpired that just 23% of recruits from his original platoon had made it because it is tough. Along the way, some had quit because they couldn't hack it. Others had been thrown out for bad behaviour because they weren't good enough, or they weren't team players, not up to the challenge, or were simply unable or unwilling to accept discipline. And of course, to be a successful winning team, Mr. Chairman, you need all those things and more. And it did make me reflect on my own troops and the journey we've been on since winning in May.
And Reform have lost 16% of their councillors since May. They've lost 9. If they lose, that's 1 every 20 days, by the way. If they lose 8 more councillors, they'll actually lose their majority on the council. As we said, yes, it's 39 councillors in total, but that doesn't include town councillors. So you may remember the case of Tony Hewitt, James. I'll remind you, he was on Ferry Hill town council, and his wife couldn't enter the flower competition that she'd won 2 years previously because her husband was a councillor and the council organised it. So he then resigned so his wife Rita could enter the Ferry Hill flower competition in the future. So that 39 doesn't even include town councillors.
Is he the guy that Nigel's earmarked for Chancellor?
I don't know if he's still in Reform, actually, because obviously he's no longer a councillor.
OK. And did she win the flower competition? Call yourself a journalist.
That's a good point. I don't know, actually. I'll follow up on that. I don't know. Did Rita Hewitt win? Lastly, James, we did speak yesterday briefly about council tax. This was Brian Collins, who's the deputy leader of Reform on Kent Council, and he was asked whether council tax will go up.
No decision has been made. You may laugh, but if you are familiar with local government financial procedure, you will understand the reasons why no decision has been made. Of course, it is our intention one day to be able to lower council tax. We have never stated, and you may smirk, but the people voted us in to make these decisions. One day, when this council achieves financial stability, we will be able to give the residents of Kent some good news.
That was uncanny. I was literally smirking when he said, you may smirk. That's very strange.
He's talking about you.
It felt like that.
But that's where we are on Kent County Council. There's still an hour or so left of the meeting, so there may well be more to come out.
They're like a coiled spring. I don't know I've ever heard a political cabal sound so well organised and so supremely fit to govern. Is it true that they're next turning their attention to organising a booze-up in a brewery?
They may well. I mean, there's no shortage of them near Maidstone, actually. It's right. The council building's right opposite Wetherspoons, which is a good place to sometimes find a few councillors in before having a breakfast. But yeah, this is really the flagship, James, the authority, as I was saying. So
well,
I'm a close eye.
I mean, as that gentleman just pointed out, I was both sniggering and smirking. But this is a very serious point. This is the Petri dish that Farage and Zia Youssef have claimed will prove exactly what kind of government reform we'll be able to provide, will be able to form. This is the test zone. This is the A-team, so to speak.
Well, I remember very early days, indeed I spoke with you on that day, they launched their Doge campaign there, or Dolge.
How's that going?
Local government.
How's that going?
It is still going.
And Zia Youssef, I believe, is running it?
He's now head of policy. So it was led by a man called Nathaniel Freed, who then resigned after 2 days because Zia Youssef quit the party. Then when Zia Youssef came back, Nathaniel Freed didn't come back. Zia Youssef led reformed Doge or Dolge. And he's now head of policy. So whether that still includes Dolge, I'm not entirely sure. But this is where they did their there's a big sort of photo on the staircase. It was a huge whopping majority. It's got a massive budget, Kent Council. And obviously they're losing councillors very quickly, but people are still waiting to find those savings.
I just apropos nothing, I don't know why this has popped into my head, but have either Matt Lucas or David Williams confirmed that Little Britain is coming back?
Was there? I thought I read something.
I thought I saw some report. I don't know why that just popped into my head, but it would be nice to see Little Britain back on our screens, wouldn't it? But I suppose in the absence of that happening, we'll have to find other areas of amusement. Do not take your eyes off Kent County Council.
I'm watching it like a hawk.
Like a hawk. And I would like to know how that lovely lady got on in the flower competition.
Yes, Rita, I will let you know. I'll find out.
Thank you very much. All the big stories here first. Well, second. Henry Riley, many thanks indeed. Back to the even more serious matter of late diagnosis ADHD and the difference that it makes to a grown-up. Sarah is in Nantwich. Sarah, what would you like to say?
Hi, James.
Hello,
yeah,
Sarah.
I was diagnosed earlier this year. I'm 44.
Okay.
And that comes after probably 25 years of being diagnosed with depression and anxiety being on medication for both of those things. Really struggling with like day-to-day life, struggling at work, struggling with relationships, struggling with friendships, basic admin at home, like paying bills, money, all that sort of thing. And then a little bit like the caller before, when you get the diagnosis, it's kind of like, okay, that makes sense. Everything kind of makes sense now. And I had people saying to me, oh, yeah, that's obvious. Obviously, you've got ADHD. But of course,
what made you make the call? What made you finally, after 40 odd years, go, do you know what? I'm going to actually find out for certain, or I'm going to get tested.
I think I was just kept struggling on and off with anxiety and depression, and I had a call with a psychologist, and they diagnosed me with BPD, borderline personality disorder.
Right.
And I had some time off of work, and then when I had a return to work with an occupational health therapist, he said to me, you haven't got BPD, I think you've got ADHD. Wow. So it was a psychologist through work, basically, that said it to me. So then work organised the diagnosis, the assessment and the diagnosis, and I got that done through work. And I said to your researcher on the initial call that I'm waiting for medication, so everything's just a wait, isn't it? So
well, I mean, there's not a lot you can do if the queue keeps getting longer and the number of people at the that you're queuing to see doesn't increase. Then these situations are going to arise. But at least you're moving in the right direction, Sarah, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, the sounds of it. But soon, do you have any idea when that will be?
They said within 4 weeks, which was about 4 weeks ago. So I'll
fingers
give
crossed.
it another week.
Well, it's always worth giving him a nudge as well. I mean, they are only humans, as we discovered this morning when discussing people being released from prison early. We forget sometimes that systems are only ever as good as the humans that populate them. Thank you for that. And it's a common one, this misdiagnosis. It happened to a friend of mine, and it had a really bad impact on their life, actually, the wrong diagnosis and the wrong medication. That ended up making some things a lot worse than they would have been in the absence of any diagnosis or medication at all. But happily, when the right medication and the right diagnosis is in place, the only way is up. 11:46 is the time.
James O'Brien on LBC.
It's 11:49. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC. My gob is not often smacked. I might occasionally claim to be gobsmacked, but it's often a figure of speech that I deploy in a slightly hyperbolic fashion. But my gob was well and truly smacked this morning when I saw the report that Sky News have done into what Elon Musk has done to Twitter, and indeed continues to do for the far right. I touched on it yesterday. I've mentioned it to you on quite a few occasions, but from a very anecdotal perspective, from very much my own personal experiences. And, of course, as we often observe on this programme, the plural of anecdote is not data. And it is data that Sky News' data and forensic team have been digging into. and now we're going to find out a little bit more about exactly what it is that they've done. Tom Cheshire is the Sky News correspondent, and you will be across this. You'll understand, Tom, that I think I've done a little bit more than scratch the surface, but give my listeners an idea of precisely how much effort has gone into this and what the sort of headline discoveries are.
Yeah, it sort of starts from the idea, the suspicion that a lot of people have that X has become more right-wing since Elon Musk took it over. And, he took it over because he wanted to get rid of what he called the woke mind virus. You might sort of have that inkling, that sensation, but we didn't have the data. So for the last 9 months, we've been trying to get that data. What that has involved is setting up sort of box-fresh new accounts, each with different political leanings, letting them run for, weeks, and then taking all that data, sort of 90,000 posts, and then using, that's where it gets a bit technical, but using a sort of AI tool, an LLM, to classify that data and understand what's right-wing, what's left-wing, what's extreme content, what's non-extreme content. So getting all of that, hundreds of thousands of data points by the end, and coming up with the conclusion that actually it does look like the X algorithm, for whatever reason, is boosting right-wing content. So if you're a neutral user, or the average user of all our accounts, they got sort of 62% of everything they saw was right-wing content. So not a 50-50 split or anything like that. If you're a left-wing user, you still saw a lot. And if you're a neutral user, these are accounts we set up to be non-political. So they follow, Sky Sports or entertainment accounts, things like that. And our investigation found that all these accounts, they were still getting a majority of right-wing content.
So the algorithm is not delivering to people stuff that they are likely to enjoy, unless they're right-wing, in which case they're getting a preponderance of very right-wing content. But people who, whether they identify as such or not, but people whose conduct online identifies them as leaning leftwards or being liberal, they are receiving a disproportionate amount of right and far-right content as well.
Yeah, everyone's getting more right-wing content than you'd necessarily expect. And then it goes the same for the other way. So if you're a politician and you look at who does well from the algorithm, you get someone like Kemi Badenoch, for instance. She's actually, for how often she posts in her sort of size of audience, she's about where you'd expect in terms of engagement. But you get other people, Rupert Lowe, for instance, real outlier on this. He gets a huge amount of engagement. Some of that's because Elon Musk engages with him directly, and that's always a big boost. He's somehow ended up as the most followed account on X. But this does seem to be across the board. We can't say why it's happened or how it has exactly happened. It might be something to do with the incentives in X, which tend towards more extreme content these days anyway. But yeah, this is a really sort of long-running UK-focused experiment. We think it's the first of its kind, certainly for the UK. And it does seem to be pretty stark. The right-wing content is boosted and that extreme content is boosted by the algorithm.
And of course, one of the first things he did was put people back on the platform who'd previously been banned for extremism and racism, and indeed conduct that was criminal, or certainly borderline criminal. So no one is necessarily going to be shocked by this, but they will be surprised by the granular detail of the work that you and your colleagues have undertaken. And I fully appreciate that you're not, unlike me, you're not in the business of personal opinions, but might you expect more politicians to join the likes of Ed Miliband and Ed Davey in describing this as a genuine threat to democracy? Because if you are seeking to gaslight, groom, or simply manipulate a population, and Elon Musk has already called upon people in this country to sort of attack each other in the street, then you are polluting democratic discourse.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to free speech, right, and how that's defined. I think there's different things going on. So when he reinstated people like Tommy Robinson or Katie Hopkins giving them their voice back, as they said, that's one thing. It's a different thing for the algorithm to prioritize content, especially when it presents itself as quite a neutral thing. We're used to very rich people controlling media in a feature, and on the left as well. You buy a paper, you know where it's coming from ideologically. The difference with X is that it presents itself as sort of a digital town square. Actually, it is private property still, and there's free speech on it, but Elon Musk is deciding how free that speech should be, how far it should travel. So I think that's the sort of difference there. And when it comes to the interference point, Elon Musk has taken a very, very active interest in UK politics. He was speaking at that Tommy Robinson rally, as you mentioned. This is, when it happens elsewhere, people are very quick to decry billionaires, perhaps a trillionaire, interfering in other people's politics. We haven't seen that full throat. Ed Davey, he spoke to us about it. He's warned about this, Ed Miliband too. We haven't seen it more from the right-wing parties, perhaps because they are benefiting from it. We've spoken to some of those right-wing parties who said, he's given us our voice back. We don't get a fair shake of the stick on mainstream media. So without Musk, we wouldn't be able to recruit. I think there's fairness to that as well. But it also means you get a very different sort of politics, I think. Ben Habib, who was formerly of Reform, we spoke to him, and his party now is happy to take Tommy Robinson, for instance, as a member, which is probably something that Reform wouldn't do, that the Conservatives wouldn't do. That's a very different sort of politics, and that's the sort of politics that Musk has enabled himself.
I mean, they have a point, of course. The Telegraph, the Times, the Sun, the Express, the Daily Mail, these are all quasi-Marxist organs that are constantly going after right-wing parties and right-wing politicians with full-throated condemnation. So I think we can all agree on the poignancy of their plight. Does it... And I think I will push you for a personal opinion on this, because, as I say, you've dug into more of it than I've had time to so far. Does it, do you think, make a case for the government to act?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm always really sceptical of government regulation. But when you think of what we are bound by, say, at Sky News, as a broadcaster, is, always there, and it regulates media. It's a different regime for the press, obviously. But I think the idea that algorithms can just sort of not be audited or not have that transparency about them, I think it's pretending to be something that it's not. If you're pretending to be neutral, I think there should maybe be some sort of neutrality that people sign up for. And they have shown willingness to work with other places. So, in Germany, they have very strict laws around hate speech, and that content disappears very quickly. We've seen content taken down in Turkey when the ruling party there has asked for it to be taken down. Free speech seems to be less of an issue for Elon Musk. Now, he does have a particular obsession with the UK. We have a different tradition of free speech than America does. But he sort of tends to align the two. I am really, really wary of government regulation because it can quickly become censorship. But I think it's clear that unless it's sort of packaged differently and said, look, this is how the algorithm works, and look, it's going to be a right-wing place. Fine, go to Blue Sky. There are other venues if you don't want that. Or they're non-political venues. Go on Threads, which is a mad social media experience, not very political. Maybe it just needs to be boxed up as such and flagged as such. But arguably, I would say it's also what we're here to do, right, is to point it out and to confirm those suspicions, have that data so that if you are signing up to X, you know what you're signing up to. Yeah. That sort of tops and tails it quite neatly. Final question then. You spoke to some former employees of what was previously Twitter, and what did you learn from them? Yeah, I mean, I think it was Twitter's been on a journey, right? Like a lot of technology, it had that optimism to it. It was a nice place to hang out. You had the Arab Spring, and everyone's like, well, this is social media. It's going to free the world. Things got quite dark, along with Facebook, sort of Cambridge Analytica story. And they said when Musk took over, though, is getting rid of the content and the moderation teams, which was a really, really big shift. And the other thing that happened as a result of that is that Facebook, Meta rather, was very happy to do the same. Now that one person's gone, we don't have to pay all these people to stop genocides happening around the world. It's a free speech carnival. So I think that's been a really big shift, and it's gone beyond X as a result. This is across the internet, across social media. So I think they're pretty disappointed at where it's gone. But just to counteract, if we've got a little time for it, Twitter before, I think probably had a problem when it came to censorship. It would go too far. The Hunter Biden story, for instance, I think Twitter executives now agree they shut that down because they were burned from last time what had happened when Donald Trump got removed from it. So a lot of critics would say Twitter had a liberal bias before, and now that's being corrected. That's what Elon Musk would say as well. I think there's some truth to it, but we've ended up in a different situation. I think a very rapidly changing situation. I don't think we've seen such an effect on British politics. Well, and also that it was never the case that people on there expressing avowedly right-wing or far-right views within the boundaries of what was permitted and what was not, they would never have their feeds full of people like me, which they would never have their feeds full of liberal-leaning accounts, whereas liberal-leaning people now have their feeds full of right-wing-leaning accounts. That's a sea change. That's a profound change, and there's no balance there between the past and the present. No, I'd agree with that, and I think some of that is, again, I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Of course, in terms of the algorithm has been changed, but the incentive structure with it being a monetizable platform now, extreme views, inflammatory stuff gets more views, it gets more money for creators. So there's real incentive there to put out that more extreme content. So I think that's some of the story here as well, rather than just a sort of political bias.
Indeed, it is. Well, congratulations and thank you to you and your colleagues who've worked on this. I've shared it appropriately enough from my Blue Sky account, but if people want to discover it for themselves, Tom, what should they do?
Yeah, do head over to Sky News app for a write-up on YouTube. We've got a long report going through this, and just to understand, there's a lot of data, there's a lot of evidence.
It really is. Yes, it is. I mean, that's why I don't know. I've heard other people use the word granular in this sort of context, so I decided that I would use it as well. I hope that is not inappropriate or inaccurate. It's Mystery Hour next. Gosh, this week's gone quickly, hasn't it? It means it must be 12 o'clock on a Thursday, doesn't it? Because it's Mystery Hour next, your weekly opportunity to achieve the sort of satisfaction not ordinarily available anywhere else on your radio dial. If you're new to this feature, this part of the programme, then you are in for I think a somewhat unexpected treat.
James O'Brien on LBC.
5 minutes after 12 is the time. It's Thursday. It's just gone 12. It is your weekly opportunity. Yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. If you don't know how this works, stay tuned. You're in for a bit of a treat. If you do know how it works, stay tuned. You're in for a bit of a treat. People ring in with questions, mysteries, enigma. What's the plural of enigma? Enigmae or enigmas? Or enigma? Anyway, they ring in with them. And other people ring in with the answers, the solutions, the illuminations. The number you need, always the same, 0345 6060973. The only difference between this and the other 14 hours of the week that we spend together, 15 of course if you download full disclosure, is that there's a prize for my favourite contributor. My favourite contributor of the week will receive a brand spanking new box fresh Mystery Hour board game. Hours and hours and hours of fun for all the family, and yours simply for the price of a brilliant contribution, or about 20 quid if you make your way to the mysteryhour.co.uk website. And you can find the full terms and conditions for this official grown-up conversation competition at lbc.co.uk. 6 minutes after 12. Just by way of temptation, if you haven't rung in before, anything goes, really, on this. A question can be quite silly or it can be quite scientific. It can be quite serious. Oh, I had a question and I've remembered it. I had this chat with my friend Gary earlier this week and he said, you'll forget before Thursday. I've remembered what it is. Can I stick it in early? Why does leaving the stone in guacamole keep it fresher for longer? Every single recipe I've ever seen for guacamole, it says that if you put the stone from the avocado in the guacamole, it will stay greener for longer. Why? 034560600973. So that's an example of a good Mystery Hour question. Unless, of course, well, I mean, it just is. Even if it doesn't have an answer, it's a good question because it's got you thinking. If you hear somebody else ask a question to which you do know the answer, then you automatically have to ring in. Them's the breaks. You also automatically, if you do ring in, qualify for consideration for the Mystery Hour board game prize, which is soon to become a collector's item. Because hopefully, and I think it is going to happen before Christmas, we will be releasing the second version of Mystery Hour. The second game, the second Mystery Hour game is the best way to describe it, because it's neither an update nor a kind of addition, a bonus pack. It's an entirely new game. You would be able to use the cards with the board from the old game, but you would also be able to play this game in the back of a car without any board at all. It's going to be brill, and it could be yours by Christmas. But the old one, the original 1.0, then you get that by either going to mysteryhour.co.uk or by providing my favourite contribution of the week. Shall we carry on? Shall we get started? Shall we crack on with this? My guacamole, how do you pronounce it? Guacamole. It's like those fairground games. Everyone calls them whack-a-mole. Am I right? Whack-a-mole? Guacamole. Jason's in Perth. 2 calls from Perth today. I like to keep count. Jason, question or answer?
A question, please, James.
Yours.
So, I recently treated myself and my wife to our new kitchen with an induction hob.
Woo!
And I know. And then we obviously purchased the induction hob pan sets to go with it. Now, the smallest pot does not work on any of the induction hobs. Now, obviously, there's no moving parts, components in these pots. So my question is, why is it that the smallest one specifically doesn't seem to be working? Now, to eliminate another factor here, the same pot, I actually smashed my induction hob on Tuesday with it, and I now have a new induction hob, and it still has the same issue.
How did you smash? I have that. I have the fear about that. I bought a griddle pan. And it weighs about half a ton, actually, Jason.
Yeah.
It weighs about half a ton.
Okay.
It's got all the ridges on it. You know, like a really nice one. And I should have bought the lighter one that was, I think it may have been a bit more expensive. I've got a kind of cast iron griddle pan, and I'm terrified of smashing my hob. What on earth were you doing? You weren't making pancakes, were you, again? And also, how did you smash a hob with a pan that doesn't work on the hob?
So, this is where I'm going to come to it now.
Yeah.
So, the reason how I smashed it is I was making some late-night super noodles, and I have a small packet of super noodles indicates to use the smallest pan.
So you went... Hang on a minute. You have invested in a brand-new kitchen and a state-of-the-art induction hob, and you were making super noodles.
Yes, absolutely.
That's for which you need a kettle.
It's a British staple, super noodles. But how I smashed it is that, because obviously you get these ones with the clippy-on handles, I was transferring from one side of the kitchen to the other and hit it in the sweet spot on the edge that managed to shatter the whole thing.
Oh, it's my nightmare, that is. Do you want a noodle recommendation? Are you interested?
Yeah, absolutely. Is it noodle type or noodle flavour?
The Itsu do one now. The Itsu have just launched one. I should probably say they send me loads. They sent me tons of them last month. I forgot to mention it. Well, no, I didn't forget to mention it. I hadn't got around to trying them. I've now tried 3 or 4 of them. Not only are they delicious, but they do very well on that Yucca app that I talk about sometimes that tells you how healthy something is or how much processed food it's got in it. So noodles historically not performing great. Instant noodles. But Itsu, done with Monica, who used to be our MasterChef, Monica Galetti. She's collaborated with Itsu to do a pot noodle, which is a trade name, so it's not actually a pot noodle, but it's a noodle in a pot, and I heartily recommend them.
Oh, they sound expensive, James. I'm merely thinking about the peasant versions of
They're not. I mean, they're going to be more expensive than the 12p a packet stuff you're getting around the back of Lidl. And I suppose you've got a new hob to pay for as well, haven't you? Now?
Exactly.
Yeah. No.
Exactly.
Well, anyway, when you've paid off the new hob and you're feeling like a treat, go and get yourself some Itsu noodles, and thank me later. All right. Well played. But why? Why does the little pot not work on the hob? Given that it's made of all that, I know it's magnetic. I thought I was going to get a round of applause there. The ones that do work on the hobs are magnetic. And or would be attracted to a magnet rather, and the ones that don't work, so the ceramic isn't going to work on there, and some metals. But why that little one doesn't work on his hob, on the new hob and the old hob? 0345 6060 973. 12 minutes after 12 is the time. Tom's in Stafford. Tom, question or answer?
It's a question, James.
Carry on.
So I'm wondering about how we refer to rivers in the UK versus how they do so in America. So, like we would say the River Thames, whereas they would say the Colorado River. So in the US, the Thames would be the Thames River, and it feels. I'm wondering why is that?
I've never noticed that before. The River Thames, the River Severn, the River Avon. And there might be exceptions, but generally speaking, the Potomac River, the Colorado River, the Mississippi River, MISSISSIPPI.
That's it.
Yeah. Why? Why do we do that? Given that the Yeah, I like it. What made you think about it?
I just went over a row by a river the other day.
And you thought to yourself, hey, if I was in America, I'd be driving up the Severn River, not the River Severn.
Well, I was in America the other week, and and it's that's what made me think of it.
I like it. It's on the board. 0345 6060 973. What was the name of the first caller? I'm not asking you, Tom. I'm asking Keith. Jason. I just wrote Tom down twice, and that can't be right. Christos is in St Leonard's. Christos, question or answer?
Hi, James. I have a question.
Carry on.
I'd like to know why our brains are crosswise with our bodies. Is there any reason why our right-hand side of our brain controls the left-hand side of our body and vice versa? Doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, is this definitely true? I've never... yes?
It's definitely true, yeah.
Is it?
Absolutely.
So if I want to move my left hand, the impulse is coming from my right brain?
Absolutely. So right-handed people are left brain dominant and vice versa. It's just why somewhere in evolution the wires got crossed and it was a good decision. I don't get it. There must be a biological reason for it.
There was some sort of evolutionary reason as well. I mean, I don't know. It sounds like quite... I don't know if we're going to get an answer to that today.
Oh, surely someone knows.
Do you reckon? I mean, what if nobody knows? Don't need to know. Nobody knows. It's not in the curriculum.
Oh, well, I mean, it's just one of those weird things, isn't it?
It is now. It wasn't before. I didn't know before. I'd expended precisely 0 minutes thinking about this, but now I'm going to expend a few today alone, let alone in the future if we don't get a question. The right-hand side of my brain that sends instructions to the left-hand side. What about the middle of my body? What if I want to what if I want to clench my belly button? What happens? Oh no, don't go any lower. What if where do they get messages from?
No, there isn't a middle. When you're formed in two halves, and you stitch together. But I'm left-handed, so I'm right brain dominant, which apparently gives me, some differences to the majority of people. So it's interesting to me.
Of course.
My right hand is not particularly great, to be honest. So my left side of my brain is not as good as the other side, and it doesn't.
No, well, same. I'm like all right-handed people. I'm the same the other way around. I can't really write with my left hand. Lots of other things. Okay, why? Yeah. You got me going now. Thank you, Christos. 12:15 is the time. Why is our left-hand side controlled by the right of our brain? And why? Is it something to do with mirrors? It's not going to be anything to do. If we're done in two halves... No, that doesn't work. Why are American rivers... Why does the river come after the name? Do you want to know something about people who like this programme enough to contact it? That's not fair. Loads of people love the programme who will never contact it in a million years. But I think a disproportionate number of people are making a joke about the late River Phoenix at this point by pointing out that he's American. I mean, that's not very funny, really. Nothing to do with the fact that he's passed away. It's just not a very funny joke. There's a man called River. Anyway, why do American rivers put the river second, and English rivers put the river first? River Mersey, River Severn, River Thames. I could go on. Could I? River Avon, not for very long. And in America, it's the other way around. I know even fewer American rivers. Rio Grande. 12:16.
James O'Brien on LBC.
It is 18 minutes after 12. Why does Jason's little pan, which is made of all the same materials as his big pans, not work on his induction hob? Why do English people put river first, where American people put river second when they're talking about rivers, not late actors? And why does the left side of our brain control the right side of our body and vice versa? And why does putting the avocado stone in your guacamole lengthen the life of your guacamole, keeps it greener for longer? That's a question by me. When's the last time I remembered a question to put on the board? It's probably 10 years ago, if ever. Julie's in Sheffield. Julie, question or answer?
It's the question, please, James.
Carry on, Julie.
Okay. When my grandson cracks his knuckles...
Oh, I hate it.
I do. And I can hear it from about 6 foot away. Easily can hear it really loudly. And I just wondered why, particularly, you could hear that loudly. If I crack my neck, which I sometimes do, nobody can hear it, even a foot away.
So why does a cracked knuckle make so much noise?
Well, yeah, why is it so loud? How can we hear it so...
I mean, it's odd that you're asking this about your grandson, because I'm sort of going to play the role of dads through the ages. Is it not just one of those questions that you answer by saying, because it is? It's just loud because it is. I mean, it's not. I can't think of any other reason why it would be. It's just the nature of the knuckle creates more noise than the nature of a neck.
But why should it when his knuckles are really little? He's only 9.
Is he?
My neck, it's adult. I know it's only air, and I know how it gets in there, James, but
you know more than I do.
Know why it's louder.
Okay, yeah, why crack knuckles? They used to say it was bad for you. It gives you arthritis later in life or something like that. I don't know if that's true. Do you?
Well, when I told him that a few weeks ago, he said no. He says it doesn't cause arthritis. It's been proven not to.
I like the sound of him. He's a Mystery Hour fan in the making, isn't he? With that kind of knowledge. What's his name?
It's Theo.
Theo, lovely. Right, let's find out. Why does Theo... Okay. Maybe it's just Theo. That would be a bit bad. Maybe everyone else has normal-sounding knuckles, but Theo's are like extra-powered turbo knuckles. Yeah. We will find out. Why do cracked knuckles... Why are they so loud? I've got some breaking news for you. First of all, let me remind you that I'm live on TikTok. You are as well. We all are. We're all live on TikTok now, streaming. Hey, rah, hit those buttons. What, Keith? What do I say again? Double tap the screen. What? and hit like. OK, I'll do it properly now, like a professional presenter, shall I? Double tap the screen and hit like. Hey, TikTokers. Hey, TokTickers. Some breaking news for you now. Rita Hewitt, the wife of the former Reform UK councillor in Kent, and it is rather hard to tell the difference between former Reform UK councillors in Kent and current Reform UK councillors in Kent, because it's possible that the latter are now outnumbered by the former. I can tell you, because I know you want to know, she came third. So Tony resigned from the council because being in the council would have precluded her from entering the flower competition, the Bloom Front Garden category, fact fans. And who isn't a fact fan if they're tuning into Mystery Hour? So Tony stepped down from the council, and that meant Rita could enter, but she only came third. Back Garden did rather better. This is not in any way a figure of speech. She entered both categories, the front garden and the back garden, where she came second. So she came third in the 2025 Ferry Hill in Bloom front garden category, and she came second in the 2025 Ferry Hill in Bloom back garden category. And I know what you're thinking, and I do know the answer. She was pipped to the post by Vivian Orton this year in the back garden category. I have not got a record of who came first and second. Do you want to know what's weird? About a dozen people texted me that she'd come third. How did you know that? And they texted me quite quickly while Henry was still in the room, so it wasn't like you went away and Googled it. How did you know that? Extraordinary. All the breaking news live on LBC. Phyllis is in Kingswood. Phyllis, question or answer?
Question, James.
Carry on, Phyllis.
Right. I was in Portugal recently on a holiday. Had a great time.
Good.
The sun was blazing. And I noticed myself and loads of the tourists were wearing sunglasses, but the locals weren't. And I just wondered, are their eyes more adjusted because they're in sunnier climes than someone like myself from Ireland?
I mean, I can't think of any other reason.
But have they evolved differently over the years?
I never thought of that. Was it very, very bright?
It was very bright.
Well, hang on, it's October. When were you there?
25 degrees 2 weeks ago.
Well, it's not that bright. It's not as bright. I bet they wore sunglasses in July.
But the locals weren't.
No, but I bet they were in July.
Oh, I don't know.
May have calmed down a bit.
Again in July.
Well, I've never noticed this before because I've been confined to school holidays for my summer holidays for the last 15 years. So I'll find out for you. If you live in a really bright country, do your eyes adjust? Do you get used to it so you don't need to wear sunglasses? Probably, but we want proof, don't we? We don't want probablys, Phyllis. We want proof.
I've been having sleepless nights, James.
Stop teasing me. Don't be ridiculous. I shall find out for you, Phyllis. Or at least I'll try to find out for you. If you live in a very bright country, do you wear sunglasses less than you would if you were visiting a very, very bright country from, for example, Ireland? 24 minutes after 12 is the time. Richard's in Bishopston. Richard, question or answer?
It's an answer.
Carry on.
Okay, so on the hob situation, you need to check whether the small-sized pan, is magnetic.
But it's made of the same stuff as the big pans, and they work.
You think it might be. You think it might be, but you need to check it with a magnet, because sometimes a smaller milk pan may not have an encapsulated base, which has got the...
This must be. It's Occam's razor.
Inside.
It's Occam's razor, Richard, isn't it? Really? Because, I mean, there can't be any other explanation except that it is not going to help make the electromagnetic field that you need for an induction hub to operate, right?
That's what I believe, yeah.
That's what I believe as well. So what we need is Jason, who... Does everyone have a magnet in their house? If he doesn't think he's got a magnet in his house, where might there be a magnet that he didn't realise he had in his house?
On his fridge.
You're almost certainly right. Jason, just go and stick a magnet on the bottom of the little pan and get back in touch with us, please. In the meantime, Richard, what are your qualifications?
So I'm managing director of a kitchen gadget company. So we have sold pots and pans over our time, but we mainly do those really heavy ones that you were talking about earlier with cast iron and griddles.
But that's not a gadget.
Well, it's part of housewares.
You said gadget. I thought things like, a banana case or something.
Yeah, that's us.
Do you do that kind of stuff as well? Which company is it? Can I ask?
We brought that one to market.
You're not Lakeland.
That's Lakeland.
Well, you are.
We're a wholesaler.
You sell it to Lakeland. Oh, no, now I've lost the line. This is the most exciting thing that's happened in ages. I love those sort of kitchen gadget things. I've got some recommendations for you, actually. I've got loads of ideas in the kitchen gadget area. So you're a wholesaler?
Correct. We import and sell to shops from Lakeland to John Lewis to Harrods down to the little corner shops.
This is sensational. What's your biggest seller?
At the moment, it's probably one of our original, which is the Egg Perfect Timer, which as it absorbs the heat.
Love it. And sadly, the phone line isn't big enough for me to reveal to you. Do you do one of those jugs that separates the fat from the gravy?
We do.
Yeah, they're very special. I like those a lot. What else have I got on this front? I should have some other things.
The original steam-free milk frother.
Yeah. It's like a little, like a little mini whisk.
That's it.
Yeah, they're lovely as well. You can use them for other things as well. I use them to mix cocktails sometimes.
Yep.
It's very good. You don't have to
You're
get
absolutely right.
You don't have to
You're
get the shaker
right.
dirty.
We saw that in a hotel in Tokyo. Somebody sent a picture of the bartender who's using it to froth the egg white. Yeah.
You see, you thought I was exaggerating when I said I should be on your payroll. Egg slicers? Egg slicers? Oh, the phone line is... I've never been more frustrated by a bad phone line. Give the man a round of applause. I'll send him 5,000 product suggestions after the show today. Thank you. There we go. That's your answer. So, well, is it? I mean, we need to hear back from Jason again and probably won't be able to get through. 27 minutes after 12 is the time. Hasmain is in Aylesbury. Hasmain, question or answer?
I've got a question.
Come on, then.
So, how does my brain remember that I forgot something but not remember what I've forgotten?
How do you mean?
So, you remember that you forgot to do something or pick up something or like something like that specific, but you don't know the specific details of what you forgot. You just remember that you forgot to do something.
So it's not like forgetting a word, is it? It's not like when you know there's a better word you could use in the middle of a sentence and you can't quite get your finger on the word. It's like you know that you're supposed to have done something, so you've remembered something, but you haven't remembered the thing that you wanted to remember. You've just remembered that you needed to remember something.
Yeah, it's like a two-step remembering. Like, instead of directly remembering what you forgot and you need to remember, you remember that you forgot something that you need to remember what you forgot. It's confusing. It doesn't make sense to me.
I think I might have an example.
Go on.
Hey, look! Neville's got a remember-all.
I've read about those. When the smoke turns red, it means you've forgotten something.
The only problem is, I can't remember what I've forgotten.
Yeah, that is the exact perfect example.
Can I confide in you, Hasmain?
Go on.
I don't know what just happened.
It was a Harry Potter scene.
Was it? Was it from Harry Potter? Because I'm trying to encourage Eleanor to take more of a role in the programme at the moment, and she just put something on the screen and said, "I've got something funny to play. Let's play it now." So I thought, this is me as a team leader, a leader of men and women. So I just gave her the nod, and then she played it. And you bloody loved it, mate, didn't you?
You need to give her more opportunities to shine, I think.
Keith will get jealous, Hasmain. I've got to be careful. This is what team management's all about. I love it. And there it is, Harry Potter providing the perfect context for Hasmain's question. You've got a lovely giggle. Stop it, you're setting me off. It's coming up to 12:30. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC. How come we can remember that we've forgotten something, but we can't remember what we've forgotten?
James O'Brien on LBC.
12:32 is the time. Why do Americans put river second and we put river first? Why does the left side of our brain control the right side of our body and vice versa? Why does putting the avocado stone in your guacamole keep your guacamole fresher for longer? Why do cracked knuckles make so much noise? Do people who live in very bright countries wear their sunglasses less than people who visit very bright countries because their eyes have got used to the brightness? That's a probably, I think, isn't it, for Phyllis? And how come we can remember that we can't remember something? So you know that you are, for example, supposed to do something, but you can't remember what it is. What's going on there? Good. I like it when we do proper journalism and research on the programme. Jason is in Perth. Have you checked with the magnet, Jason?
Yeah, so I feel kind of bad because obviously I don't want to. I mean, that man, obviously that's his trade, and
yeah, but he's not just pans, mate. He does everything from banana guards to egg slicers and little hand frothers as well.
Right, so I'm putting a magnet on the big pan, it sticks.
Yeah.
Magnet on the medium one,
sticks.
Magnet on the middle one,
Yeah.
and then the small one, the magnet sticks.
Oh, my God, no.
There's no change. That's why I'm confused.
Holy moly. I've got a theory.
Oh.
But it involves a slightly indelicate inquiry.
Okay.
And it's rendered even more indelicate by the revelation during our first exchange that you dine regularly on super noodles, the really cheap kind.
Proceed.
Did you spend a lot of money on the pans?
There were 6 figures on Amazon.
3 figures.
3, sorry.
Yeah.
Secretary.
No, I'm going to say you didn't spend $1 million. I mean, you didn't spend £100,000 on. No wonder you're eating bloody noodles.
Yeah, they were a 3-figure set.
For how many pans?
I don't go for too cheap.
How many pans in the set? How many pans in the set?
So there's 5.
Oh no, that's perfectly. That's
sorry,
a good.
6.
Yeah, okay. So you're looking at 20 quid a pop. 20 quid a pop or so.
Yeah, so I need to look into my consumer rights now because one of them doesn't work.
Well, all I've got is that it might not be flat. It might not have a flat enough bottom.
I mean, do you want me to get a spirit level out?
Well, honestly, yes, actually, but it might be a bit weird for everybody. How handy is your spirit level?
You
haven't
right here.
You have, what?
I've got one here.
You have not.
Yeah.
How come?
It's just by complete coincidence, my tool bag thing is
right. Well, get the spirit level out and turn the pan upside down.
Right. A small pan. The pan in question is relatively.
Give it a little. Put the pan flat with the handle pointing off the working top, so you see what I mean. So it's dead flat.
So it's a clip-on handle. So
well, take the handle off. Take the handle off.
It's off.
And now put the flan pan flat on the working top.
Yeah.
Now get the spirit level.
Yeah.
And hold it in. Hang on, and hold it in both hands on either side of the pan.
Yeah.
Is there any wobble?
I mean, I think the factor is just the nature of my house because it's old. I don't think it's
no, because the working top's flat. Is there a bit of wobble as you apply pressure, like a seesaw effect between the two sides of the thing? But theoretically, it shouldn't move at all. Is there a bit of a wobble?
No, to answer your question on that part. Sorry, I really wanted that to be.
Yeah, well, you and me both actually. That would have been me doing science. Live on the road. So why? So it's magnetic. It's got enough. It's flat enough to build the electromagnetic field. All right. Well, I'm not taking away his round of applause because I'm hoping he's going to send me a free banana guard. But
yeah, of course not.
Yeah, I'll get you one as well if I can. I'll get you one as well if I can, Jason. God knows you need all the charity you can find at the moment if you're eating super noodles on a regular basis. But I will. I'm not taking away his round of applause, but I am uncrossing out that your original question.
Okay.
All right.
You're on.
Carry on. 12:36 is the time. Put the spirit level back where you found it, otherwise you'll be annoyed when you can't find it next time you need it. Harry's in Alton. Harry, question or answer?
It's answer on your pans with the too small for induction hobs.
Do you know what? Good, because I am loving this. Go on, fill your boots.
So, yes, he was right to say check that it is magnetic because...
Yeah, we've done that.
You know, sometimes they're not.
Yeah, we've done that, mate. We've even got a spirit level on the case.
So, and that's not a bad shout, but if you look at the instruction manuals for the hob, each zone will have a minimum size of pan that it will detect.
There it is.
And the maximum zone. So the maximum is how much of a pan will it heat.
Yeah.
But if a pan is too small, the hob just won't detect that it's there and turn itself on in the first place.
On all bits, as it were.
Yeah.
All elements.
And that's why you kind of get some hobs that have, like a small zone, 2 medium zones and a large. You get some really fancy ones where they've got these like infinity zones, and they're more likely to work on his small pan because they... So
that's like a rectangle?
Yes.
Yes.
Kind of. I mean, yeah.
What on a normal one, what would the layout be? If you've got 2 small, 2 medium and 1 big, the big one would be in the middle, the small ones would be at the front and the mediums would be at the back?
It depends. You normally have the largest zone front right if it's a 4-zone hob.
Okay. What about a 5-zone hob?
Then it'd normally be in the middle.
And the medium ones would be at the back?
Yeah.
And the little ones would be at the front?
Yeah.
So I can see from the TikTok feed that Tubbs has had a very similar problem, and it is almost certainly the case that the small pan is too small for that particular hob. So it would have worked on other hobs. So he's not going to get a refund, is he? Because they would just say, "I'm terribly sorry, it's magnetic, it works. It's just your hob is too small."
Yeah, and if you had a slightly different hob that had a small zone, then it would probably work. Or he's just got to accept that hob, that pan isn't going to work on that hob.
He could put it in his camping kit.
Yeah.
Qualifications?
I own a kitchen showroom. We have a demo kitchen here. We have the manufacturers come and do cooking demos, and it's something that I asked them when I realised that I'd bought a pan set from
a reputable
IKEA
retailer
when we first opened up, and it didn't work on the. And she bought all her lovely fancy pans that came, that the manufacturer of the hob makes.
Yeah.
And they all work beautifully.
That'd be a good name for a company. Well, it would be. I'd buy fancy pans. Fancy pans.
Why not?
How often do you come across broken hobs?
Pretty rarely.
That's what I thought.
The glass is really strong.
That's what I thought. I'm still not convinced he told us the truth about what happened. I think he was sort of doing something.
This is the funny thing. If you do catch it at the right point, normally on the corners, and that is where you're likely to break it.
Every day's a school day, because that's exactly what happened. It's a bit like that thing. I was on the bus this morning, Harry, and I saw that thing where it says hit the button with your fist for the emergency exit, and I thought that can't be true everywhere on the window. There must be little bits of the window where if you hit it right, then it will shatter.
Don't they supply a little hammer with like a very fine metal point on it?
Not on the E8.
Oh, okay.
They do on other buses, but this one has a button which is fixed to the window, and you pull the seal off. I really wanted to do it, actually, but obviously you get into loads of trouble. You pull the seal off and you punch the button and it shatters and reveals it. So it's nothing to do with the weight of the pan. It's all to do with the size of the
size of it. Yeah.
The target area. What is big in the world of kitchen supplies at the moment? What's the latest must-have thing?
Oh, well, the colour green, very popular on the cabinetry.
Is it?
We're doing quite a lot of that this year.
Nice.
Well, what else? Obviously, islands are always very popular, but you've got to have a decent-sized room for that.
Yeah. You do indeed. Do you want a free advert while you're here?
Oh, I wouldn't say no.
Go on then, fill your boots.
So we're at Alton Barn Kitchens on Station Road in Alton, right next to the Waitrose.
Do you know, I love the way you did that. You made it sound like an advert in the old cinemas when I was a kid. It would say, just 200 yards from this cinema, the Barney Tandoori. Pardon?
Yeah, you want the...
Yes, exactly that. Exactly. And you got a round of applause. What a day. Crikey, it's downhill from now on for Harry.
Show, by the way.
Oh, you're very kind. I love kitchens. So we've got a lot in common. 12:41 is the time. And I've got an island. Luke's in Cardiff. Luke, question or answer?
Yes, an answer. Good to speak to you again.
Likewise. Let's do it.
So this is an answer to why the hemispheres of the brain cross over and why you've got one side powering the other side.
Yes.
So the crossover itself is called decussation, which I think comes from Latin, as everything does in medicine, where it's to form an X. So if you look at it front on, it would make an X in front of you. So it's called decussation. So there's a protective element from it. So it separates your brain into effectively two brains. So if you took damage to one side of the brain, your body would still be able to operate.
Which is probably most relevant to stroke, actually, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. So if somebody has left-sided weakness in a stroke, it's the right side of the brain that you know which is affected.
A couple of people have been in touch to tell me about their strokes and how that fits with the presumptions, the parameters of the question.
And then you can go into more detail as well. If someone has like an eyesight loss or a speech loss in a stroke, you can go to a specific area of the brain which would be affected then as well.
Fantastic.
So it crosses over as a protective element, and then it's also to help the brain sort of compute information.
Go on.
Because if you had your brain as one entire sort of computer, if you think of it that way, and you had a specific input on your little finger, it would innerviate all the way up to the brain, and it would be hard for the brain to formulate the information.
Yes.
So it crosses over into two bits to help the brain sort of distinguish between certain elements which are stimulated. So it's like a form. It's a how do I describe it? It's like a easier way for the brain to compute information if it splits it in two and it separates.
So
it
it will be.
Right.
It will be simple evolution then. When this was presumably originally a genetic mutation, and then it got replicated because it enhanced your quality of life, your length of life, and your likelihood to reproduce more.
Exactly. So initially we were maybe a more simpler organism, so there was less signals coming through. But as our brain has got more complicated, as has our body, it's had to try and find ways to distinguish certain information and help sort of organise it better.
That's lovely. That's beautifully done. Qualifications?
I am a paramedic practitioner.
That'll do nicely. Round of applause for Luke.
Cheers, James.
Thank you, mate.
Bye.
Put Luke's name next to Christos's on the brain question. That was a really good one, actually, that. And Ollie is in Worcester Park. Ollie, question or answer?
It's a question, please, James.
Carry on.
My question is about the days of the week, right?
Okay.
So most of them are named after pagan gods with a few celestial rocks and a ball of gas in there, right? So we've got Mondays, Moon's Day, Tuesday's Tyr, Wednesday's Woden, Thursday's Thor, Friday Frigg, Saturday Saturn's Day, and Sunday.
Hang on, can he say that on the radio? Is he allowed to say that?
Well, Frigg.
Yeah.
I should have said it again, so hopefully.
Great, can he say that? Is he allowed to say that on the radio in the context of it? Just to make sure everyone knows we're talking about Norse gods, all right?
The Norse gods, yeah.
Norse gods, carry on.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Well-known Norse god.
So with the Christianisation of the country in the Saxon times, why didn't the church ever change the names of the days of the week? It's not as if they've been shy with their...
Are we sure it... Moons, loons, Tues... Well, I guess the most obvious answer is it would be one almighty kerfuffle.
Well, I mean...
You can't go around renaming the days. Everyone would get really confused. Also, what if you had an appointment? What if you had an appointment next week?
Yeah, that's a good point. I just go on St John's Day. You know, they could have changed it to Christian names. Jesus Day, Sunday.
Why I'm just thinking about... I only really have French, and maybe enough. Just lunes, martes, miércoles, jueves. Just enough Spanish.
Is it the same in other languages?
Lundi, mardi, mercredi, jeudi. No.
No, right.
No, it's not. So it must just...
isn't it, really?
Yeah, but I think it might be why... It's probably the same reason why we celebrate Christmas and Easter when we do, in that the Romans were very, very good at leaving just enough of what they had invaded in place to keep the locals happy-ish, while taking over everything else and shipping all the good stuff back to Rome. So you know, the Druids, Easter is essentially, albeit that we say it commemorates the death of Jesus, the dates of it actually date back to Druid calendars, don't they?
Yeah.
And I think the same with Christmas, oddly. I think that certainly mistletoe and things like that were Druid. Yeah. So I bet that's what it is. They just didn't want to, upset the natives.
I was hoping to get that to speak Saxon on, really.
Well, you were going to speak some more Saxon.
No, that guy that... the guy that speaks...
I know, we haven't given him an opportunity recently. Well, listen, I mean, if he's got anything to add to what I've said, then I'll put him on, but I'll take a round of applause in the meantime, because I suspect it's to do with the Roman invasion, because they brought Christianity here, so it would have been around that time that you'd have expected the old Saxon names to have been changed, but they didn't change them because, they were robbing us blind, but somehow we were putting up with it, and that was partly because they let us keep so many of our pagan traditions while dressing them up in Christian robes. Thank you very much. What was the name of that lovely man who does that, who speaks the Anglo-Saxon? I like it when people's relationships... I think it's Mark, is it? Relationship with Mystery Hour runs deeper than the programme and extends into their lives after I've come... No, not Mark. Not Mark in Barrow in Furness. He's our sort of general linguist and etymologist and what have you. There's a lad from the southeast. Oh, come on. 12:47 is the time.
James O'Brien on LBC.
It's 10 minutes to 1. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC. Some questions that I need answers to that I can't currently see anybody on the switchboard hoping to provide include, why do we remember? How can we remember that we need to remember something, but we can't remember what we need to remember? I don't know that anyone's going to be able to answer that question. But I hope you can, because it's such a great question. And it was such a lovely moment of radio when we had to hand a little clip from Harry Potter that illustrated Hasmain's question quite perfectly. And I wasn't the only one beguiled by your giggle, Hasmain. It was strangely infectious. Why did Julie's grandson, Theo, give him his name. Why does it make so much noise when we crack our knuckles compared to when we crack other joints or other parts of our body? Why does leaving the avocado stone in your guacamole prolong the freshness, enhance the freshness of your guacamole? I sense we've finally nailed the Hobbes question, and I think we've got people coming with the rivers question and indeed the sun question. Ronald is in Rochester. Question or answer, Ronald?
It's an answer, James.
Carry on, Ronald.
I will indeed. So, the simple answer is the colour of their iris.
The colour of their what?
Iris.
Oh, do you know, I thought you said something else then in a Somerset accent.
Well, my apologies.
Carry on.
Yeah, so...
How would you know what colour that... Well, no, sorry, carry on.
You'll find that people that live in very, very bright sunshine areas, Middle East, Africa, etc., have all got brown irises. And the iris will block the light from getting the sunlight, the visible light, from getting through and annoying them.
How interesting. Whereas Phyllis, who, like me, is of Irish heritage, has probably got green or blue eyes.
Well, one hopes green. But,
why?
Yeah.
What's wrong with blue eyes?
Well, Irish eyes should be green, shouldn't they? Anyway, moving
That's
on.
the flag, mate. I've got blue eyes. What's wrong with blue eyes?
Well, that's because you're mixed race. Anyway, let's keep to the point.
I am. What's wrong with blue eyes? Scandinavians have blue eyes, and it's quite bright as well. Is it? It's not sunny bright, is it? It's different sort of bright.
Exactly. Yes, the sun intensity is considerably lower.
Yeah, Northern Europe. How interesting.
Yeah. So, but there was a very important point that your producer asked me to stress.
Oh yes.
And that is that although they are protected quite well from visible light, which is in the visible spectrum, ultraviolet light, which is actually very high, particularly in Africa and the Middle East and anywhere that's very, very bright, they ought to wear sunglasses because UV light will penetrate no matter what the colour of their iris. The iris doesn't protect against UV light. And that causes cataract and also damage to the retina, the bit that you see with in the eye.
And the producer told you to introduce this to the conversation?
She did indeed, yes.
Good Lord, she's dull sometimes, isn't she? I mean, I know it's important points, but honestly, it's mystery hour. You don't have to do bloody health warnings.
Well, no, that's exactly what she said. You have to do the health warning.
Yeah, you don't have to do the health warning. I used to be in charge of this programme, and now I'm playing out Harry Potter clips that I don't understand and telling people to wear sunglasses in hot countries.
Well, take over the programme, Joe.
It's too late. That ship has sailed. Qualifications?
Optician.
Oh, do you discriminate against customers with blue eyes, Ronald?
No, of course not.
Well, it doesn't sound that way to me. So, you charge us more, do you? Or something? You see us coming. Get it?
Don't start picking on me. Last time you called me Don from Doncaster.
Well, no, I didn't call you Don from Doncaster. I just said one day, before I retire, I want every caller to have the pleasing, alliterative locale like you have, as Ronald in Rochester. It's not quite perfect. It would have to Rollo in... I don't... But anyway, have a round of applause on me.
Most kind. Thank you.
No, thank you. A lot of people on TikTok, Keith tells me, commenting on how hot I'm looking at the moment. Is that not the word you'd use, Keith? Oh, no one said hot. Presentable. That's about as good as it gets to me. Could you imagine that? You're looking very presentable today. Well, what do I look like the rest of the time? Don't answer that. Seriously, but you said get everyone to click the button, to touch the screen loads of times. So you actually, and I said, I'm not doing that. That sounds desperate, but do like it once. If you're watching on TikTok and commenting on how hot I'm looking at the moment, then presentable, then do just double tap the screen to register a like, because that someone somewhere counts this stuff, and one day possibly I'll get money. So do that, like it on TikTok. Thank you. Glenn's in Basildon. Glenn, it's you.
I'm the guy that speaks Saxon. How you doing?
I know you are. As soon as I saw it on the screen, I remembered Glenn in Basildon. Saxon Glenn. In my mind, you'll always be Saxon Glenn. Go on. I got my history. My history was all over the shop on this one because the Saxons were after the Romans, so that's the first mistake. Fill your boots, Saxon Glenn.
So basically, days of the week, why they never really changed to Christianisation. Alfred the Great did try it. I can't remember what he tried to change the names to, but he did try to Christianise the days of the week. It just didn't take off. The people wouldn't have it.
Is that right?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, bearing in mind, he wasn't the King of England. England was divided by this point. In fact, a lot of England was under Danish control.
Already, yeah. King of, what was he, King of Wessex? Just
the King of Wessex, yeah. So. He did try because he wanted to move it away from his earlier Germanic pagan gods, which were very similar to the Norse gods. Yeah. In fact, they're pretty much identical. It's just the names that are slightly different.
Love it.
So he wanted to Christianise it and remove us from the Danes. But the common people, they weren't that well educated. Barely any of them really wrote or read anything, so... They just wouldn't change it too much.
So it stays put, and then, I mean, so would we have been saying Monday in sort of 800 AD?
Yeah.
We would, before the Normans got here.
Yeah, Monar's Day, Day of the Moon. Yeah, Teal's Day, Day of Tyr. Woden's Day, Day of Woden. Things like that.
No, carry on, don't stop. This is lovely.
Thor's Day, Day of Thunor, Thor.
Yeah.
Freya's Day, Day of Sea.
Yeah, see, you didn't have to say what the other guy said, did you? You
Saturday's... Yeah, Saturday's the odd one out. It's named after Saturn. Nobody knows why.
Oh.
Saturn's a Roman god. Nobody knows why.
Saturday.
Saturn's Day.
Yeah.
And then you have Sun's Day, Day of the Sun.
Yeah, that one's quite easy to work out.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Sunday, out of all of them.
Yeah.
Name a day named after a planet. It's going to be Sunday, isn't it?
Well, I do still remember reading somewhere that Sunna was actually a male god of the moon.
Oh.
And he had a sister called Mona, who's the goddess of the moon. So yeah, Sunna, sun, Mona, moon. So we swapped it round. We have a feminine moon. We have a masculine moon god rather than the other way around that you get with like most of the romantics.
What are your? I mean, I know, but you know how it works. Qualifications?
I'm the guy that speaks Saxon.
I'm the guy. No, I'm Saxon Glenn.
The guy still I meet, here I am.
This is sensational. Did you like that? That was sort of like a bit of celebrity status there.
Like I said, I've made it as a board game. You know what I mean?
You have made it on the board game. It's all going. You better be in the new one.
I think that deserves a rail out, doesn't it? He did ask me.
Oh no, because he was supremely quality. He is actually the guy. Oh no, that's cheating. I think you've technically qualified for a Ray Liotta, but it doesn't feel. No, but it doesn't feel right. Why what?
I think he should have one.
Yeah, but it's not. I mean, it's.
Thank you,
all right then.
I'm Ray Liotta, and you're listening to James O'Brien on LBC.
Fantastic, right?
I think you're the first person you've done it all.
Yeah, I've completed Mystery Hour.
You've completed Mystery Hour. You've unlocked the achievement. No one's ever done that before. Every single thing I've got, that's it. You've rinsed me dry.
I'm going back to Battlefield 6. See you soon.
If you missed any of today's show, I'm not going. He's already got the plumbing board game. I'm going to give it to Jason so that he's got something to do while he's waiting for his noodles to cook. If you missed any of today's show, you can listen back on our free Global Player or app or the new LBC app, where you can stay up to date on all the top stories and opinions. You can put your news categories in the order you want. You can pause and rewind live radio. You can listen to a range of podcasts, including Full Disclosure, which is with Jimmy Wales this week. Some recent ones have been wonderful. Alexander Armstrong was an absolute joy. Charles Dance was a true player. They're all great. Listen to them all, seriously. And download them all now from the LBC app. It's free. It's in your app store. Tom Strawbrick is coming up at 4. Sheila Fogarty is here.
James O'Brien on LBC.